On May 5th, the main character was supposed to have a wedding. Everything was perfectly planned, and it had to be beautiful. The perfect couple deserved to be happy, so she hoped for it. The girl was incredibly happy, because she had always dreamed about this. She hoped that her fiancé thought the same way, and did not even know that there could be a catch that ruined everything. The blonde did not want to upset his love, but still decided to confess. He didn't want to do this, and every emotion was visible on his sad face, but he said what he should have said much earlier. As it turned out, the young man didn't even like the brunette. After the words, all the happiness they were playing with fell down like a house of cards. Virgo did not know what to do with herself in order to somehow save herself from self-destruction. Squeezing her dress with her hands and trying to hold back her bitter tears, the lady sighs quietly, calling the prince all sorts of names. She sits all alone, realizing that she does not know what she wants in the future. The seventh prince of the Hevrim Empire, Carmen Dilarc, was the young lady's fiancé, but everything changed so quickly. The heroine could never even think that she would know the bitterness of loss. The main character is Chelsea Lordling, the sixth daughter of the noble Lordling family. She twirls a scarlet flower in her hands, thinking about what she should do next, because she has more and more questions for herself. The girl who came up from behind suddenly scared Chelsea so much. She became so nervous that she tore the rose into 2 parts, slightly injuring herself with the thorns that protruded outward. The woman immediately begins to scream and reproach the child for just ruining a vase of flowers that had been standing peacefully on the table all this time. Perhaps it would be worth telling the whole truth. Thinking about something, the beauty finally reveals the truth. She thought about the 12 summoning formulas that are used in magic. The friend's reaction was known in advance, but it was still worth trying luck. Noticing the serious expression on the girl's face, the little girl decides that it is not worth repeating this out loud, so she pulls the peach. This baby bothers her, slightly distracting her from the necessary activities with his barking. Looking into her aunt's eyes, the girl tries to explain the whole situation. She called the dog, but now she doesn't know how to keep track of him or how exactly to control him. It's worth asking for help to get it. The lips curl, as if themselves expressing a new wave of dissatisfaction towards the beauty. The woman has a son who is 8 years older than the heroine herself, but much worse in everything, so this brings out emotions. Aunt's husband, Uncle Lordling, is a remarkable man. He is distinguished not only by his appearance, but also by his mind, which only this talented alchemist has. He hoped that his son would inherit his business over time. The girl was also interested in this, because she had the same hopes as her lover, but everything was not going at all the way she wanted. Unfortunately, Chelsea's brother was not at all interested in this, so he constantly failed. The aunt is just worried that her son will not be able to inherit the business of her father, who was even more outstanding than her husband. It is for this reason that she always walks around dissatisfied, as if someone had ruined her mood. This time, everything went as usual according to the script. The lady started screaming about being distracted by flowers that were not needed. You need to try to focus, or better yet, grow up and get married as soon as possible. Everyone around was tired of the endless antics. The girl blinks her eyes in surprise, and then lowers them to the floor. It seemed to her that the others supported her, but nothing could be done about such concerts, because they go along with the character of her relative. The idea of Uncle Trudy comes to mind. A man once compared the world to a mechanism, because each detail symbolizes an individual person. Each of them has a role that others will never understand. Each hand ensures the clock operates and moves time. An important role cannot be insignificant, no matter how you look at it. The young man asks Chelsea what she wants to become in the future. Of course, no one is rushing the girl, because she has the right to choose absolutely whatever she wants. However, I would like there to be some options in the future. It was on that day that the little girl decided what exactly she wanted to do in this life, and what exactly she would like. The role was very simple: get married and take care of the home. In her opinion, nothing better could even exist. The heroine came to this conclusion after the fairy tales her mother read to her at night. In each of them, everything was the same, because even if the stories were different, the result was the same. At the end of the fairy tale, a handsome prince always appeared, so the girls were usually incredibly lucky. To some extent, one could be happy for them, but not too much. Chelsea was excited about this idea, hoping that in the future she would soon meet her prince. Aunt didn't quite understand this, but tried to remain more neutral. Not much time passed, but everything changed dramatically. After my mother began to offer all sorts of search options, the lady refused over and over again, repeating that love does not exist at that age. The Duchess was always incredibly calm and kind. Lordling only wanted the girl to talk to her new friend and perhaps make a friendship, but nothing more. A forced engagement to some boy in the future was not one of the prospects that Chelsea considered, but no one asked her because she believed so. There was no talk of true love. A young man with blonde hair, like sunflowers or the bright sun, smiles as soon as he sees his new girlfriend. He greets the lady, sparkling with his blue eyes that attract attention. Freezing, the beauty even opens her mouth in surprise. It was a hit to the heart because that same long-awaited prince finally appeared to then take the girl as his wife. Almost jumping on the boy, the heroine smiles back with all her might, showing her interest and accidentally calling the guy a prince. As it turns out, he really is a prince. The girl showers her friend with compliments while their mothers stand to the side, giggling lightly. After all, everyone loves this kind of show of interest, especially when they wanted to get engaged. Still in surprise, the beauty quietly says that the prince's eyes are somewhat similar to the blue sea. Usually the waters are raging, especially during a storm, but in the guy's eyes, only the quiet surface of the sea was visible. The blonde smiles back once again, because he doesn't want to stop. The hair resembles the summer sun, which warms everyone around in the empire in which they live. The beauty abruptly asks the guy to marry her, and, without even allowing him to respond with a thank you, she runs somewhere forward, shouting "Hooray" at the top of her voice, showing her sincere happiness. Almost immediately running to her mother, the little girl screams that she has decided to marry Carmen. He became her prince, even if she promised herself that she would never marry, changing her mind. The Empress laughs lightly, saying that this is fate. If everything turns out this way, perhaps they should get married. So accordingly, on the same day, a lot of congratulations fell on the new couple. The baby was so happy that she didn't even think about the question, such as whether he liked her. No one can get into a person's head, so Carmen said nothing. The next day, the woman began inviting Chelsea to hang out with children around her age. Making friends is a good thing, no matter what age a person is. Blinking her big eyes, the girl asks if Carmen will be there, realizing that she has now received the answer, yes. At that stage, hearing about the prince was the most important event or condition for going somewhere. The girl should make a lot of friends, and she can't even wait for it, hoping that the event will take place very soon. We are talking about the children of Earl Glam and Duke Brown. Lordling arrived at the meeting only for the sake of a friend, but it turned out that he was not punctual, so he was delayed. The blonde next to me only interfered more, pestering him with questions, trying to make an acquaintance. The daughter of a family of hereditary wizards, Elena Bran, became the one who was more active than other children around. She knew that all the people in her family were quite outstanding, but she did not know what to do in the future. The son of an earl and a major banker, Chris Glam, did not agree with absolutely any expressions. The girl cannot use magic yet, since there is too little mana, knowing that money is much better. The two began to argue, because the girl assured everyone around that the bank's money was not for the Glam family, but he did not give up, while some child called Chelsea to play. This seems like madness. Lowering her head on her hands, the lady sighs heavily, trying to somehow come to terms with what is happening around her. She is waiting for the prince, although obviously he does not come from the word at all. Yet the dreams came true, because Daylark arrived even after a long time. Entering the hall, he smiles, greeting all those who have gathered, talking about how pleasant the meeting is for him. The girl becomes the first to greet the seventh prince, but the children become faster. They run towards Carmen, surrounding him and thereby pushing Chelsea away, who, unable to bear it, falls onto the soft carpet. Each of those gathered begins to ask endless questions, which, it would seem, should sooner or later get boring, but in the end, nothing happens. Chelsea looks towards Carmen, who hasn't even turned his attention. Such behavior makes the beauty harbor resentment, which is reflected on her face in the form of frowning eyebrows and narrowed eyes. The heroine was the one who said hello first, but for some reason the boy never turned his attention to her. He stands on the sidelines and chats with the rest of the idiots instead of his best friend. Getting up from the floor and dusting off her dress, which matched Carmen's hair, Chelsea almost cries again. She doesn't understand how this happened, because for her it's such a shame. The blonde smiles easily again. He tries to ask Chelsea what exactly happened as he gets closer, after everyone else's conversations have ended. In any case, Everything should turn out as best as possible, so he tries to be nice. Immediately changing her face, the beauty greets the boy in return, undoing what Lordling said, because more importantly, the hero will still remain her prince, who is the only one. An hour later, the future Duchess Brown returned home, as her parents decided to take her back. Count Glam fell asleep on the sofa very close to where the couple was sitting. The heroine was finally left alone with Carmen, and this is what he wanted for so long. Leaning against the young man and resting her head on his shoulder, the girl closes her eyes and begins to snore sweetly, hearing the question about her fatigue. As expected, the blonde is an adult and even more cool, unlike everyone else who gathered at this meeting. He behaves completely differently, as if he grew up with different people. Chelsea stands up, remembering one thought that formed in her head and grew into a question. Many people say that they are the same age, but even Carmen did not know this, which is surprising. This is truly fate, but the words don't matter because the blonde says that she is even shorter than Carol. These words seem to pierce the heart, allowing it to shatter into fragments. The girl the guy compares his girlfriend with is his little sister, who is 2 years younger. That day, Chelsea couldn't get away from her, constantly slapping her on the head. Evaluating the phrase in her own way, the brunette clenches her fists. This doesn't suit her at all, because she understands that Carmen just literally said that she was too small. Jumping up from the sofa, the heroine tries to explain the obvious. She is a little taller than Carol, which she thinks is true, since she even measured their heights, knowing their exact ages. Last time the lady was 2 centimeters taller, so the statement hurt pride. The heroine's siblings are also tall, so things will change a lot in the future. While studying at the academy, the girl will grow to a fairly decent height. Not intending to argue with his friend, the prince agrees, placing his hand on his head to stroke it. Straightening his hair, the young man looks into the Duchess's eyes with concern. He doesn't know how to express his emotions at this age, but he tries his best to do so. Falling onto the bed after it was all over, the girl thinks, once again running through everything that happened that day in her head. The problem is that Daylark thinks of Chelsea as a sister. There are different guesses, but none of them are perfect. This could all be because of the younger sister, because if you think about it, the older brother treated the girl in a similar way. The baby has been engaged to Carmen for more than a year, which does not allow the situation to take its course. This can't go on any longer, so the beauty quickly suggests coming up with a plan to win Carmen's heart. Reaching for the bedside table, the beauty begins to write down all her thoughts in a notebook that she managed to get her hands on. It's worth starting with what the guy likes. The first point is animals, because Daylark adores them. When the girl brought him the puppy, he was absolutely delighted, and then asked him to hold it at least for a little while. This point is one of the most important, however. The baby is invited to visit the guy less and less, which makes it clear that he has his own pet, or does not have time. She would like to spend more time together. Drawing some pictures to make everything easier, the beauty thinks about what to do next. Perhaps you can latch on to your sister, who is a hunter, to make it work. Not wanting to procrastinate, the girl almost immediately ran to Lordling's room. She throws the door open, shouting her name sharply to get attention. Watching the maid help place a towel around the girl's neck, the little girl screams for her to take her hunting with her. She needs to do this for herself. The next day, everyone went hunting. In the very first hour, my sister shot one of the eagles, which once again proved her professionalism. Chelsea asked to go and get the loot, so of course she was allowed. Heading straight to the place where the eagle was supposed to fall, the lady only thought that Carmen would immediately fall in love with the girl again when she brought him a hawk, which she would tame and subdue. To summon an animal, the girl prepared more than thoroughly in advance. In the bag, she brought chains for summoning and a magic circle, which also works. For the sake of the prince, I had to spend all my money. Wrapping the chain around her hand and extending it further, the brunette walks further, finally noticing the body of the hawk. The eyes begin to glow with the fire of victory, which will be well deserved. Noticing how the bird's body moves, the lady quickly unrolls some kind of scroll on the ground. We need to act more decisively, because otherwise everything will end in the death of the prey. Applying her hand, on which the chain is wound, the beauty pronounces the cherished words. First, the magic seal is used, formula number 1, which is the most common. After a few seconds, the eagle literally takes to the air, trying to flap its wings to fly away. Nothing happens, since the body is tightly wrapped around a chain tied to the wrist. The girl didn't know how yet, and even a stupid person would understand this, but absolutely anyone can tame an eagle. The easiest way would be to conclude a contract with the object that is unbreakable. The stronger the spirit, the more large people the magician can tame. The animal wants to take over the power of Chelsea herself, but she is so resourceful that she simply does not allow this to happen. No matter how hard the eagle tries, all his attempts to escape are in vain. It is necessary to complete the work that has been started, which so badly requires it. The next spell is Formula 13. She gives up some of her magic, but in return receives the power that the bird conveys. Such conditions seem to be the most convenient. After everything that happened, a shockwave passes through, which is noticeable only to magicians. Chelsea falls onto the grass, closing her eyes, but not being able to do anything because she hears voices calling her name. Rising so that she can see those who are rushing to help, the beauty notices her sister, who is almost running. Next to her is one of the knights, who went hunting with the others. In a split second, the brunette finds herself next to Lordling, grabbing her by the cheeks to examine her entire body, and first of all, her face for injuries that could somehow affect her. It's okay because Chelsea is just tired. She tries to make everything look like it happened by accident. Walking towards the carriage, the couple notices an eagle, which, as it turns out, has survived. Leaving no right to explanation, the little girl grabs her sister, hugging her with all her might. We can thank the maiden, because now, thanks to this, the eagle has become a new pet. A couple of days later, another scene unfolded in the palace garden as Chelsea arrived to meet Carmen and immediately began calling him by name. The Empress only smiled slightly. Noticing the blonde head, the brunette takes a running leap into the arms of the guy, who almost falls due to the weight that is placed on him so unexpectedly. Each of them is glad to have such a meeting. The boy cuddles up to the girl and then, looking into her eyes, listens as she talks about how much she missed her. In response, he only gives out, which is heard very quietly. When meeting the Empress, the lady sits down, greeting the woman too. She knows what to do, because she is going to leave them alone. The girl is going to show something interesting. Stretching out the chain, which begins to glow with a bright blue light, the brunette calls for an eagle, who hurries towards almost immediately. Extending her hand, the lady allows the bird to perch on her elbow, making herself more comfortable. Surprise and joy flash in the friend's eyes. It so happened that Chelsea suddenly became a summoner. It happened so the heroine is not going to reveal her secrets. Asking if Carmen would like to hold the eagle, she kindly hands him over, realizing that the prince will be hers alone. Daylark really liked it. After this, the guy is simply obliged to look at his girlfriend in a completely new way. Sunset comes unnoticed, so the prince remarks that they both need to return. Freezing, the girl only nods, because she is busy looking at Carmen's hair, in which the rays of the sun play so beautifully. They don't calm down. Looking straight into Chelsea's eyes, the young man only says that she is an amazing person. You can see from his eyes that he is not lying when he says that he likes the baby. This time, the plan worked as it should. Chelsea freezes. She is trying to accept what has just been said, or rather to contain her uncontrollable joy, which is trying to break out. Sitting in the carriage on the way to her estate, the girl just thinks about everything that happened. Carmen called her amazing for the first time, which was considered a compliment. Next time, she promises to tell herself everything. A month has passed. The empire celebrated its founding, which was considered a great opportunity for the girl, since the prince was simply obliged to attend such an event. Expectations were not met at all. According to the knight, Carmen is forbidden to go anywhere because he cannot allow him to get wet in the rain. His Highness risks getting sick, which will have a bad effect on him. The blonde is also determined to go out at least for a little while, because the rain was light and almost over. Virgo is not far behind, because this holiday, which many have been waiting for, will become wonderful, but not without the future emperor. Orders are no longer challenged. There is no way out, and there is no choice either, because the only option is to walk in the garden just as the couple usually did. This situation is incredible and upsets the beauty. Walking into the garden, the young man tries with all his might to distract the girl. He notices the magnolia trees and how many of them are in bloom. Once I managed to drink tea with flowers, but even to this, my friend does not react in any way, plunging into her thoughts. The prince still doesn't give up. He also remembers the Empress, because she also really liked that same tea. The woman even said that it relieves stress a little, which is exactly what is needed in this situation. Noticing the girl's fatigue, The guy suggests she rest a little. You can sit on the grass like you would at a picnic and take some snacks, even if the girl doesn't like it. In her head, everything was completely different. As you know, the Duchess can meet her lover only a few times a month, which she has to wait anxiously for. That month is the day of the founding of the empire, which I wanted to make a memorable event for both. Carmen is a prince, so there are no questions about why he is always busy, but it is still upsetting that the festival was not a success either. This is difficult to accept, especially for a small child. The little girl was getting ready because she hoped that all this would turn out to be a great date that would be remembered. Together, they got to watch the sunset, try some street food, and maybe even kiss under the fireworks. Instead of the entire list, the couple sits in the royal garden and does nothing, literally missing the whole day. The heroine seems to be the only one who regrets this much. Noticing another change in her friend's mood, the blonde asks what happened, as if he himself doesn't understand the whole situation. He assumes that the girl does not like looking at the flowers in the garden. Pointing to a table with chairs, the hero suggests going to drink tea, which has already been prepared. In response, a quiet grumbling is heard, because the girl did not come to the meeting to drink tea, which can be done at home. You won't be able to take a walk either, because that's something completely different. You need to walk along spacious streets, such as the festival streets in the city. This is a subtle hint that becomes clear almost immediately, without question. Realizing that there is nothing more to do, the virgin still decides to stop saying things like that. For some reason, she thought that the guy was angry, but he put his hands on his friend's shoulders, nodding his head in agreement. The beauty once said that she wanted to go to the Dragon Tower, so now, taking advantage of the situation, the blonde offers to go there. This, of course, is not an event in the city, but it is also worth it. Turning to the knights, who had been following His Highness along with the maid the whole time, the young man notices how some of them were distracted, so he is going to use the opportunity that has presented itself. Putting a finger to his lips, the hero asks to be quiet, even if it seems that he wants to scream because of what awaits them. No one wants the servants to stop them, so there is no other choice. The girl's eyes light up again, with that spark that she seemed to have lost as soon as she heard the news. She can't stop smiling non-stop. The Dragon Tower is where the dragon once settled, which served as the source of the founding of the Hebron Empire. He was evil and powerful, so he chose a remote place for himself. Many say that the empire was founded by the one who found this dragon in the tower. This same man received the title of the first emperor on the land, which began to belong only to him. Ancient magic was born there. The first sorcerers were so powerful that they could destroy the empire, but they obeyed the laws that exist. This is why Kevram is considered the most powerful country in history. The birthplace of magic is truly beautiful. For some reason, people consider these to be just fairy tales, but it is still possible to believe in such things through force. 10 years ago, a real dragon was actually found in the tower. The death of the animal was a blow to the empire, because some immediately lost their magic. This is why you want to see the place where the creature lived, even if the heroine is still so small. Just recently, a girl asked Carmen to show her that very place, but he began to protest. Only members of the imperial family can enter there, and even his sister, because she is part of the family. Then Chelsea's request was blatantly ignored, even if it had a logical undertone, but now everything has changed dramatically. The prince still decided to show the existing legend to his girlfriend, even if it was prohibited. So lost in thought, the girl didn't even notice how they arrived at the place. She bumped into the young man's back, asking why he stopped, but almost immediately noticed a majestic formation in front of her. The heroine's eyes immediately lit up with a bright light. She almost jumps up with impatience, starting to squeal something about the value of this object, which she no longer even hoped to see. Previously, the maiden read a lot of literature, and like one, each of the authors described the tower as a blue building that reached the sky. In real life, the construction turned out to be even more beautiful, so I couldn't believe it. Not wanting to endure it any longer, the beauty offers to go inside to inspect everything. Carmen thinks about it, because usually at such a time everything is closed, but for some reason there were no guards or soldiers nearby. Since no one was nearby, the maiden still managed to persuade the prince to finally take her inside. They climb the steps only to disappear into a dark corridor near the door. Even if the tower is so magnificent from the outside, Lordling cannot even imagine what awaits her inside. Too many questions arise, but each of them will be resolved very soon. Walking inside, the lady freezes. Directly in front of them is a stone door that they are unlikely to be able to open so easily. It's worth thinking about what to do next, because there is no key provided. The blonde asks to calm down, while carefully pressing a button on the side. No one is surprised by this anymore, but there turned out to be a secret door that opened with ease. A lot of experiences appear in my head. As you know, only a member of the imperial family can enter the premises, so Lordling refuses. She doesn't want to be executed. Nevertheless, listening to the soothing words, the girl still, gritting her teeth, agrees to this in order to get inside. After all, she will still become the guy's family when they get married. Nodding and continuing to smile, the hero does not want to waste a minute, so he grabs his friend's hand and pulls her up the stairs, leading her straight behind him, but at the same time allowing her to look around at the same time. While the steam rises, the torches light up by themselves. Apparently, there is a fire seal in the corridor, or it was the dragon itself. The climb turned out to be much longer than expected, because they walk for 20 minutes. The legs are almost falling off, but on one of the flights you can see a staircase. The young man offers to take a break, so the beauty, of course, agrees to this without question. Hearing dissatisfied grumbling, the blonde changes tactics, asking if the lady would like to go back. She widens her eyes, exclaiming in surprise. According to Carmen, there is nothing special to look at from above, because each flight or room is exactly the same. Next, there is a bed where you can wish, allowing your body to rest. Still, agreeing to what was proposed, the beauty sighs heavily. Now they are going down. The girl did not expect this from the tower, because there is only a simulation of stair climbs. When the couple entered the stairs into the corridor, the door was open, but now that they decided to break free, it was tightly locked so as not to let anyone inside. Placing his palms on the tree, the young man quickly realizes that the door was closed from the outside. Obviously, the guards returned and noticed some things that seemed extremely suspicious to them. The prince lowers his head. Even in his worst dreams, he could not imagine such a scenario. There are days when the door is open all day long, so there were no expectations. Contrite, the hero asks for forgiveness, but hears words of consolation. It's also Chelsea's fault, who repeatedly asked to see the tower, while using the methods of the forbidden eyes. The knights who guarded the prince remained in the garden, so sooner or later they will go out in search of the couple. If not even on the same day, then certainly on the next, they will find the Duchess and the Emperor to save. Until someone helps, the couple will still have to sit inside, finding something to do that will most likely get boring pretty quickly. Noticing the expression on his face, the girl understands that her friend is completely desperate, losing hope. There is no point in worrying so much, because the prince and the noble lady, who are children in addition to all this, have disappeared. There must have been a commotion outside as panic began to spread quickly. If they stay in the same place, sooner or later they will be found. There is no point in worrying ahead of time, as it will not make anything better. You can just sit and think about everything, since there is no one in the room except these two. Noticing that the prince has moved away and leaned on the walls, the little girl understands that she needs to act quickly. She comes up to grab the boy's hand and pull him towards her. The heroine still decided to go up to the top floor, even if the last time her attempts were completely unsuccessful. Almost reaching the top, the young man carefully asks if everything is okay, as he notices the condition of his friend. Finally, everything that was accomplished quickly paid off. The dragon's lair appeared right in front of them, allowing them to get a closer look at it. It seems that the girl's heart begins to beat much faster from adrenaline. After a moment of pleasure, the beauty falls to the ground, leaning on her palms and making sounds of fatigue. The legs can no longer hold up, which is starting to irritate, but this is an understandable phenomenon due to the number of steps. Sighing, the girl nods. She is glad that they got to the place where she wanted, but she is not at all sure whether she will again be able to cope with such a long climb, which so exhausted her to such a state. Laughing lightly, the blonde offers to look at the beautiful view, which will definitely make the heroine forget about everything in the world. You shouldn't expect much since it's pretty empty, but that's cool too. On the flight of stairs where the couple stopped, and which is also the last one, the beauty notices a dragon named Kira, who is depicted on the wall, like a drawing from her ancestors. This name is quite famous, even if this is the first time the Duchess has heard of it. Many people were still not enlightened, so they believed that the dragon had no name for many years. No one ever divulged that same name, hoping that one day everyone would simply forget. The last representative of the species, the blue dragon, which became the symbol of the imperial family, now remains the only dragon of the Hevram Empire. For some reason, the girl did not think that such a formidable beast would have such a beautiful name, Kira. It seemed that this could only happen in fairy tales, but as practice has shown, this is not true. If the beast already had a name that had existed from the beginning, it was necessary to let people know so that they would treat it with respect. My thoughts are interrupted by a young man who calls his friend, who is hovering near the painting. The blonde heads up a few more steps to reach an open area. Chelsea looks at everything around her with interest, knowing exactly what needs to be done next. The couple ends up exactly where they should be. The railings are surrounded so that they do not fall, and under your feet you can see the city, which, as if in the palm of your hand, looks small. Lights and various bright garlands from the festival instill a good mood. From there, you can see a sea of people, each of whom seems incredibly happy. If it weren't for the weather, the couple would also be walking there with the others and enjoying time together. As a result, they were stuck in that same tower with no access to the outside. Sitting down behind the box to see even more due to her height, the baby looks around and asks for forgiveness. This is all because nothing worked out this year, but next year the best will definitely happen. Pointing her finger at some house in the distance, the girl exclaims in surprise, but more enthusiastically. They can see Wesley's magic house and shop. From the site, you can see a lot of interesting things without any effort. Smiling lightly, the beauty notices that he looks small, like a toy. Even a prince finds such a sight endearing. If you look closely, everything looks incredibly small. It seems as if people in general are like insects that could easily be picked up from the ground. It's like a new entertainment for children. The light suddenly went out, as if everything had suddenly shut down. The girl recently heard that Uncle Wesley screwed up. Elena said that he brought the wrong product that he ordered. The beauty just then bought a magic amplifier, so she had to change it. The old man is already aged, so it is not surprising that sometimes he still makes mistakes. If Chelsea ever makes such a mistake, she will give her hairpin, and this is more of a promise. Remembering that Carmen is a man, the girl stumbles. With Elena, they could play similar games on equal terms, but here the story is completely different. The lady hurries to offer her ring, which is on her index finger. According to the girl, beads would fit much better, but we are still talking about a ring, which is completely different. The blonde blinks his eyes in surprise, not quite understanding the essence of the conversation. Noticing a slight trembling in the girl's body, the young man reacts very first in order to be proactive. He takes off his jacket only to then throw it over the heroine's shoulders. Only the bride should wear beads, which already says quite a lot. The boy laughs lightly, asking that he remain the groom, and without any decorations that could lead him into doubt. Turning back to the city, the couple begins to discuss the buildings they can see so clearly. The clock tower is similar in size to the dragon tower, but the same is not stored there. Virgo jokes about the trespassers that they are, but notices a worried look. After all, there is a slight fear splashing in the eyes. The blonde carefully asks what happened in order to understand exactly. The hero wants to know if his friend is cold, to which she denies. The groom gave her his jacket, so there is nothing to worry about. The cold wind does not reach the body, no matter how they try to change something. Fireworks start all around, lighting up the sky with colorful colors. Carmen reaches forward closer to her friend in order to quickly hug her, pressing her to herself. He decided to choose exactly this method to warm him up. As it turned out, Carmen just wanted to hug her friend because she felt such an impulse. The girl's uncle once said that every person has his own role in life, but the lady still couldn't decide. Now everything has become more than clear. The lady offers to rub to be the one who warms the boy, because she knows that she was born to be with her lover. There shouldn't be anything else in store. The beloved prince looks even better when multicolored lights fall on him, which light up his eyes in their own way. Fireworks are truly wonderful, so you want to watch them for many years. At that moment, the lady once again told Carmen that she liked him, but after that, the days began to drag on even longer. The girl is sitting on the sofa, thinking about how much she misses her boyfriend. It seemed to the girl that they had spent at least 10 hours in the tower, and she even thought that they would have to spend the night there, but they managed to get out after only 6 hours from the beginning of the imprisonment, which they themselves organized. The daughter's parents were very worried. They could not understand where exactly the beauty had disappeared, so quickly, as if she had been blown away by the wind. Everyone was under supervision, but even this did not really help. As it turned out, during the celebration of the founding of the empire, one of the lords caught a cold and died from the disease, which seemed terrible. The weather is not kind to anyone. The empress was incredibly happy that her son was okay. He only assured his mother that they were just looking at the beautiful city at night, which then stopped burning with the same lights that were at the festival. For some reason, the brunette thought that they had become much closer immediately after that festival, but in the end, she turned out to be just a spoiled child who wants too much. The heroine hoped that everything would go in vain, and at least she would not be punished, but her parents thought differently, so they locked up their daughter for 3 whole weeks. This is the most unpleasant and offensive punishment of all time. Sitting in a room all day was pure hell, because boredom creeped up unnoticed from all sides. That is why the brunette sometimes sneaked into the kitchen at night to brighten up her days a little. Each time the girl hoped that there would be something tasty in the cupboards, although she knew very well that in the end, this was also a ban. She was usually fed by a maid on a schedule in her own room. On this day, the maiden once again lit a candle and headed down the corridor to the kitchen to check for entertainment. Walking past her parents' quarters, the baby hears conversations and voices of those she knows. The first thought is what the father and mother are talking about. The brunette quietly poked her head through the doorway, hearing them discussing the prince's condition. As it turned out, he had a fever, which he caught from somewhere unknown. The duke was more than sure that it was a lizard disease. They say it can be contracted from poisonous lizards or from animals that eat their discarded tails. It looks strange, but you shouldn't just give up. There must be a way to cure a disease that is so insidious. A medicinal plant called baraka should do the trick. It will indeed help, but it is not so easy to find what is hidden so much. The knights combed the entire area, but did not find anything similar. The couple plans to join the search the very next day. Despair and fear splash in the eyes. The heroine didn't even think that her lover was so seriously ill, and his cure was even more difficult to find. Lordling promises himself that he will find the most effective method that will definitely help. This is just a plant that you can try to look for, even if it is difficult. There is no choice in any case, because the prince cannot wait for help to find a cure. Soon the minutes will count. Deciding that she will be able to find what she needs, the brunette turns sharply and runs into the distance to get to her room. A trip to the kitchen was cancelled due to more important things that could not be delayed or plans made. On the same day, the heroine began searching for a solution. She needed to find what that particular plant looked like and then find out where it could grow. She knew it would be difficult because no one could do something like that. As it turned out, baraka has a pungent odor and purple petals. This is a northern plant, so in the Hevram Empire it grows mainly in winter rather than in summer, when the weather is not entirely favorable. The plan that the maiden created matured almost immediately. She understood perfectly what had to be done to achieve that very result. It is worth summoning an animal with a developed sense of smell, for example, a dog. A dog alone wouldn't be of much use, and that became clear pretty quickly. With the current level of magical power, the little girl was not sure whether she would be able to summon someone else or not. There are too many questions left. Another idea appears in my head, which seems even better than the previous ones. The maiden can summon insects, and since they are easier to summon, you can get a large required number, which she will fulfill. Starting to make circles with magic, the beauty takes one of them in the middle. Each of the insects must lend its strength so that the lady can accomplish her plans. Opening her eyes, the girl sees insects such as moths and ants right in front of her. These 2 types will be more effective than the rest. Kneeling down to be heard better, the lady reminds them of their goal. It is necessary to find a flower with a pungent odor, and as soon as it is found, everyone is obliged to immediately inform the owner. Noticing how the insects nod their heads and fly away and crawl away, Chelsea shouts after them to look as diligently as possible. Carmen's life is at stake, so this cannot be neglected. In fact, the girl is a little nervous, because, despite the number, the insects are quite small, so everything will be visible. The call worked in the end, and that's one of the most important things. There is absolutely no strength left, so the beauty falls to the ground. She stretches out on the floor, thinking about when she should rest so as not to miss news from the insects. After just an hour, the moths were the first to return. Noticing the swarm, Chelsea opens the window, immediately asking if any of them found the barak herb that was discussed not so long ago. The maid who came to check on Miss watches her talking to someone standing outside the window. She blinks her eyes in surprise, calling out to Miss almost immediately. Pretending that nothing happened, the girl smiles. She asks where her mom and dad are now in order to understand when they will leave the garden. As the maid said, they will leave very soon. At that same second, the girl turned around to quickly run to her parents and talk to them before they left. Afterwards, the brunette only shouts for the hostess to be more careful, so as not to accidentally fall. The words never reached the girl's ears, literally disappearing into the corridor. The maid shrugs, because she still didn't understand where the beauty was in such a hurry that she almost fell. The lady scattered all the sheets, but after that, no one saw her. Apologizing to the woman in her head, the lady promises the nanny that she will very soon help clean up and explain everything that is happening. It's worth meeting mom and dad as soon as possible to make it in time. While running through one of the large windows, the brunette notices a couple coming out of the garden. She found them quite quickly, but she understands perfectly well that if she wants to make it in time, she should run out or somehow shorten the path. Going down the stairs, the maiden realizes that very soon it will be possible to tell where Baraka grows, while knowing that she will also have to tell about insects. The whole problem is that the parents do not recognize magicians, which is why the lady liked to spend more time with her uncle. Now everything has changed, because there is nothing more important than saving the future emperor. The father, who has almost climbed inside the carriage, notices his daughter, who calls them that she has strength. At first, it seemed to him that the girl came to see them off before they left, but he still does not know anything for sure. The girl sits down to catch her breath as words struggle to come out of her mouth. The mother, interested with a hint of concern, asks why the beauty is running around the estate. You must first decide what to say first. The girl finally calms down, openly declaring that she knows where exactly the Barak grass is, which is already known to everyone. The very next day, an expedition was sent to the place where the moths pointed. Several knights on horses and 2 carriages are heading somewhere deep into the forest. The knights next to the carriage discuss how incredible it is that all this is true. They searched the entire capital, but found nothing, which means the girl is trying to attract attention. Chelsea, hearing the entire conversation, clenches her teeth tightly. The anger almost takes over, but you still manage to calm down before something happens. Very soon, it will be possible to prove that this was true. The girl's mother, herself, and even the empress went in search of the plant. Parents passed on information about where to find medicinal plants, even if it took a lot of effort to convince everyone. Simply saying that it grows behind the big rocks behind the mountain was more than enough. For some reason, the knights turned out to be distrustful. Finding a plant for Carmen is an important mission in itself. Smiling, Lordling tries to say that they are simply tired from the endless search. Chelsea usually also grumbles when she is very tired, so of course, there was no trick in this. There is nothing to say in response, so the girl looks out the window to check what is happening there. Everyone has 2 dissatisfied faces, as if they constantly want to turn back to go to the estate. Mom changes the topic so as not to discuss the knights, which, by pure chance, everyone can hear. She asks what the moth is saying to the girl, so she leans over to listen to the conversation. Realizing that it's time to turn, the beauty leans out of the carriage to point with her hand in a completely different direction, which she already knows about. It is almost completely impossible to remain indifferent to criticism because such things are exhausting. We are talking about healing Carmen from his illness, so I want to help as much as possible. Stopping near the area where they arrived, the girl asks to examine those stones, because everything is behind them. The man goes further, but very soon shrugs his shoulders, saying that there is nothing there. Chelsea's eyes show disbelief and even horror, because this flower definitely needs to be found. She frowns indignantly, shouting that everyone should inspect the area again in order to finally understand that there is still something there. Running forward, pushing everyone gathered with her elbows, the brunette looks behind the stone, which is completely empty in surprise, as if a part of her had been taken away. Opening her mouth in surprise, the beauty sighs in shock. I can't believe that even the moths failed or that something happened, because Barak's plant definitely had to be there somewhere. Showing something that was found, one of the guys holds out a purple wilted flower. According to others, it is just a weed that has no use, especially in making medicine. Falling to the ground, the lady tries to hold back her tears, which are becoming increasingly difficult to control. She cannot believe that this happened so soon because she expected to find a flower. Without losing hope for some more time, the girl kneels down to quickly look around and find what they came for in the first place. There was no other way out. Ian asks the lady to get up. The lady misrepresents the right plant, so it's just best not to give up, even if he thinks, if you look closely, the flower looks a little like Baraka. The little girl's feelings are understood, but she herself is not even going to accept reality. The knights and the women head back to the carriage, while the lady stands alone with a doomed look. Despite such a mistake, the girl's mother did not scold her, but, on the contrary, tried with all her might to console her, saying that everything was completely fine. The hope was given in vain, but it still didn't change anything. The woman tried to be kind, realizing that her daughter was absolutely not to blame for anything, but somewhere in the depths of her soul she probably felt some kind of guilt before the Empress, who also began to hope. Even the knights, who were excited about the possibility of finding Baraka, became quiet. The silence only worsened the situation, but the Empress's words turned out to be the most bitter. Carmen should definitely get better, but it's best to leave the matter to the adults. The blonde was not offended at all, and there was only one reason for this. Chelsea is a child. A child who does not understand anything cannot provide significant assistance to any cause or person. Falling onto the bed after a hard day that was so disappointing, the brunette thinks about everything that happened. The events were too strange. The bugs that the heroine summoned were exactly the ones who found Baraka. People like them certainly could not confuse the plant, because it is quite rare and very different from the rest. The vision of moths and anteaters differs from that of humans, but they have an excellent sense of smell. They had to look for the flower not by appearance, but by smell, which raised questions. The young lady is more than sure that the smells of barracks and weed are different, because they are completely different. The plant is too peculiar, and because of this it becomes easier to decide. It turned out that something was just a weed, which, in addition to all this, had time to dry out. Too many details appeared that attracted the beauty's attention more and more. This terrifies the girl, because a long time has passed since Carmen fell ill. A week and 3 days since everyone went in search of the right flower. It was the most difficult for the boy, because he suffers. When a girl once had poisoning, she could not restrain herself and cried because of the terrible pain in her stomach. It is difficult to even imagine what the young man is going through at this very time, trying to resist the disease. The brunette feels sorry for the young man, because she cannot even see him. She would really like to at least hug him and talk to him. If there was such an opportunity, the beauty would even take away all the pain that was caused. Tears seem to flow down her face on their own, but the heroine tries to calm herself down. She is well aware that she needs to try her luck and find the flower herself. Even if the Empress asked to leave this matter to adults, it meant nothing. Chelsea screwed up big time last time, so now she intends to completely correct all her mistakes. This time, you should try using a magic stone to search for plants. This set cost 1,300 silver, which again was worth it considering who was trying to be healed. Even with that very stone, the heroine still needed a lot of magical powers for the formula, so she suffered greatly from magical exhaustion for some time. No matter how bad it was, there was no time to give up, because achieving the goal required determination. The girl set a goal for herself, so she was going to find the treasured flower that was so needed at any cost. 3 days later, the moths again brought good news, which somehow even lifted the beauty's spirits. You need to go there immediately, knowing in advance what exactly is there. The first step in this regard was excellent camouflage. So that the nanny would not notice where the girl had disappeared, she had to build a dummy of a sleeping person out of pillows, who would pass for a real one. The rope had to be thrown over the window in order to descend later. Going alone is dangerous, but Lordling could no longer share her ideas with her parents. I had to do what was possible, because it was impossible to forget about it. Descending down the rope so as not to make any sounds, the beauty silently asks Mom and Dad for forgiveness. She hopes that everything will end soon, and this time she is definitely not mistaken. Quite quickly finding herself near the rock that was indicated by the moths, the maiden noticed that very plant. It is located at the very top, but it will be quite possible to get there. The tower was located on the outskirts of the capital, but fortunately, we managed to catch a van to get there. The man who dropped the girl off said goodbye and headed to the next village, so all that remained was to get Baraka. All that remained was to climb up, but the task turned out to be not one of the easiest. Now the girl complains that she did not come with her parents, because in the end, she will have to ask someone else for help. Voices are heard on the path, so the heroine quickly hides behind a tree. Most likely, these are the same bandits that everyone else was talking about on the way here, and they are discussing the plant. They would not like to work at night, but in order to ensure that no one catches anyone, this is the only way to do it. Chelsea does not immediately understand that the two also came for Baraka, who grows on the rock. The decision came immediately, because one of them threw the rope, catching it at the top. They want to leave quickly in order to get everything they need and then sell it. The heroine wants to cry. She came first, but in the end she faces the chance of simply missing her turn. Maybe you should wish and ask for one stock, but those people are too suspicious. The mission only becomes more dangerous. After 5 minutes, the couple left. They decided to explore the local surroundings to see if there were still flowers there, or if this was the only one. Lordling still didn't understand why exactly they were doing this. Looking at the rock, the girl sighs. She no longer sees Baraka, so she sadly realizes that there is not a single flower left. Before she leaves, she looks closer, noticing just one flower that serves as salvation. There is still one left, and even if the lady does not know what to do next, the rope that the bandits left will help her with this. You can almost immediately climb it and make sure everything is fine. It looks terribly high, but there's still no choice, just as there is no time to panic. Carmen suffers while the girl doubts, so she needs to quickly climb higher. Everything turned out to be not as difficult as it seemed. Thanks to the rope, the maiden easily reached the flower, which was indeed more beautiful up close than when viewed from a few meters away. Repositioning her foot and holding onto the rope, Chelsea realizes she's almost achieved her goal, but at the last minute her foot slips. She almost flies to the ground, but manages to grab hold of her other hand to save herself. Getting to the very top, the brunette exhales with ease. She almost fell, realizing that she could have received many injuries, but in the end she was carried away. The baby, smiling, almost bounces on the spot. It was scary, but everything turned out in the best possible way, so now it will be possible to still help the prince so that he will thank him. Looking down at her hands, the beauty notices that they are all tattered. The wounds begin to hurt more and more, but all you can do is ignore them. There are much more important things that cannot be put off. The strange shape of the bud seemed even more unsightly up close, even if it was not about beauty, but about benefits. An unpleasant smell hits the nose, making it clear that this is definitely Baraka. The girl went downstairs and returned to the room where she met the coachman with whom she was traveling. She wants to go home as quickly as possible and even offers double the price, not noticing that the bag of money is completely empty. This is the way they are both on their way, so the man offers to do without payment, receiving an immediate refusal. This is wrong, so the girl offers to take her necklace as payment. Accepting the beautiful pendant, the young man thanks him because his daughter will definitely like it. If they decide to leave now, they will find themselves in the capital by morning. It seems that the young lady has important business in town. Smiling, the heroine actively nods. She does not want to tell the details, but success catches the eyes and consciousness because everyone knows that very soon the future emperor will be cured. The carriage raced all night, and as the coachman promised, by morning, they found themselves in the palace. The girl immediately handed Barak over to the servants and left there so as not to catch anyone's eye. I would like to see Carmen, but even his girlfriend understood that she was unlikely to be allowed inside. Leaving the palace, the lady heard the joyful voice of Her Majesty, who finally found hope along with the flower. It was difficult to do everything I wanted, but the girl herself praises herself for her feat. Many days have passed since that day, and the relationship between friend and girlfriend only grew stronger, as if before our eyes. While all this was happening, the girl reached school age and entered the academy. She knew that everyone was obliged to undergo training, so she was eager to do it herself. According to her mother, Chelsea was entering the academy too early, but the girl did not think so. She didn't want to be in different classes with her lover, who meant so much to her. There is no need to worry, because the baby is determined to be the best. She knows that it will be difficult, but she agrees to do anything to get her good future. Smiling, the beauty says goodbye, only to leave immediately afterwards. She definitely doesn't want to leave her parents and home, but knowing that the prince will be there makes it a little easier. Imperial Hevram Academy is where Lordling entered with the help of her mind and parents. This institution is considered the best educational center in the empire with 3 educational buildings. There are different directions, which, as a rule, divide themselves. The girl decided to try herself after she decided on a place. The first building has always been and is an educational building, which everyone can enroll in. There was a mixed system of education, which was still one of the best. Also, knights were trained in the second building and magicians in the third. There weren't as many takers for a knight, just as for a magician, but they were also in some demand. The girl decided to apply for the general building in order to become an ordinary person, realizing that the others were not suitable for her. The letter that was sent spoke about the opening banquet, the spring festival, and the masquerade. Reading the schedule, the lady raises her eyebrow. It seems that no one there had even heard of normal activities, because there were only holidays that were of no interest to her. The girl, coming up from behind, says that this is how everything should be. They are first years who are not knights or magicians, who cannot waste an entire year of training because they have to prepare. Elena explains that the building they entered is located nearby. This is more for general development, because its main focus is on strengthening the connections that have been created over the years. It sounds stupid, but Brown is right. Unlike those who have a narrow specialty, the education of the rest is not as important as the new acquaintances that will be needed in the life of every aristocrat in the future. The girl complains to her friend about how much she misses Carmen. She could climb over the gate of the military building, but Elena reminds her of the punishment. They study at the same academy, but the rules here are so strict that nothing can be done. If you really want to be close to the prince, then it's worth going to the same building with him to always be close. This would make the task much easier. Two girls who came up unexpectedly recognize the identities of their friends who are sitting on the bench. Presenting their names, one of them calls herself Suzanne, and the second girl Lena. Chelsea nods her head to confirm her identity. Another lady grabs her by the hands, almost begging her to join the needlework club, which is organized on the territory of the academy. Suzanne begins to explain that if no one has decided on an extracurricular activity yet, this would be a great opportunity. The activities of the club, as is known, are related to embroidery. The beauty tries to get rid of the others, saying that she is not at all interested in such things, but the other lady assures that this will help in the upcoming competition. Everyone would like to get extra points. During the festival, as it turned out, several competitions from different classes will be held. The Knight Corps will stage a military tournament, which will be quite attractive, judging by the program that is already being prepared. The General Corps will also put forward its own program, which promises to be excellent. There will be about 5 competitions, including embroidery, knitting, and poetry. The winner will be considered the Queen of the Academy. A crown was prepared especially for this, which you also probably want to get more than anything else in this world. Lena heard that Chelsea has a lover, and if he wins, they will both be nominated as a couple at the festival. You can be selected to become the king and queen, and then others will consider them the Kivram star couple. The star couple are the winners of the festival competition, recognized as the best in their field. There is a belief that they are connected by fate, and after graduating from the academy, they will definitely get married. The beauty holds out a magazine. All the star couples are presented in the magazine, which Chelsea immediately ends up with. You can be sure that many of them actually got married later. The girl carefully examines everything she sees in front of her, trying to understand how exactly she needs to react to this. This sounds like an ideal future for her to build. If the maiden and Carmen are chosen king and queen of the festival, this will be the happiest moment in the heroine's life. This is incredibly intriguing, so she confidently says that she wants to join the club. Late in the evening, a girl sits at embroidery, which needs to be prepared for practice at the club she just recently joined. The sister comes into the room to ask if Chelsea is awake. The woman sits down on the bed, saying that she should go to bed earlier. Before a competition, you should always get a good night's sleep to gain energy, but this is different. If the lady goes to bed, she will still not fall asleep in any way. Tomorrow there will only be academy students and their immediate families. The sister promises that she will come to support the girl, no matter what the cost. Laying the beauty down, the maiden promises that everything will be fine tomorrow. Before closing her eyes, the girl takes one last look at the calendar that stands next to her on the nightstand. There is very little left before the competition, especially since there were no problems with embroidery, which is already a plus. According to the rules, there is also chess there, which cannot be missed. You will just have to improvise and not waste time in order for it to end perfectly. We can only hope that no problems will arise in the end. Tomorrow, everything will be fine if only you hope for it. Burning with the idea that she and Carmen will be together, the girl rejoices. Turning her gaze to the moon outside the window, the beauty examines the sky, where many stars are scattered. I want tomorrow to come as soon as possible, because all that remains is to win, and then enjoy your victory. The day of the festival arrived unnoticed. The girl was right when she thought that she would not notice how time would fly, because now she had already arrived at the main square right in front of the academy that was holding it. Tournament participants are asked to go to the right wing. All instruments have been checked by students of the Magic Corps, so they remain in good condition and safe and sound. Making her way forward with Elena, the heroine sighs. They have to push through the crowd just to get into the middle. There are a lot of people there, which is a little annoying right before the competition itself. Brown turns to her friend to cheer her up a little, because he knows that even if she is hiding everything, she is still a little worried. Chelsea will succeed, because it was not in vain that she trained for so long. The girl nods her head, because she agrees with what her friend says. In her opinion, the embroidery turned out just perfect, which means that everything will end perfectly. There is nothing to worry about. The strongest opponent is Sasha. The princess, with beautiful peach hair that blows in the wind, is the one who is nominated in advance for the award of the year. Everyone around believes that she deserves to become the queen of the festival. The woman coming forward says that the competition is only held for 8 hours a day. This time will be more than enough, so the first stage will be crafts, and then a chess tournament, followed by poetry. The last competition is embroidery and knitting. You will need to meet the specified deadlines and submit your work before the end of the competition, which will be the most difficult, but most important in obtaining points for victory. If female students are worthy of their title, then they must demonstrate their skills to the fullest. All that remains is to try hard to get this place, and Chelsea understands this. Turning her gaze to Croft, who looks absolutely calm, Lordling realizes that the chances are getting smaller. She would like to win, but that former confidence is no longer left. The first stage, called Craft, begins. The blonde deftly makes her house, which after half an hour is on the table, while she asks to hand in her work. It resembles a beautiful carousel interspersed with gold. The girls behind begin to quietly praise Sasha. There was no problem with what they were doing, because in the end, it was all worth it. The lady tries not to pay attention, while the leading lady asks everyone to be quiet to allow the others to finish. The maiden sitting on the side gives advice that will help Chelsea. You need to immediately glue the base so that it starts to dry as quickly as possible, since if it accidentally dries out, the work will not be counted. There is no point in rushing, because there are no points for speed. Trying to calm down, the girl realizes that it is best to let herself focus on what needs to be completed on time. She cannot allow her training to go to waste. Chelsea puts her head down on the table because of the fatigue that is preventing her from working so much. The rest of the contestants crowded around the beauty to discuss what was going on. The heroine finished the house, but while it was drying, she decided to start embroidering, so she didn't even notice that the parts had moved a little and dried up just like that. Everyone had already turned in their work, and even if the lady's work was ready, it was crooked. Lordling's overuse of glue caused the pieces to start slipping, so of course nothing else worked. This ugliness can be considered a complete nightmare, which the owner herself considered it to be. The girl tries to drive away her panic, which only slows her down, roughly understanding what exactly she needs to do. She knows there is still some embroidery left, so she frantically tries to calm down before things get worse. This time the heroine is more than confident of her victory, because there really is no point in worrying. There have been trainings before, considering they went pretty well, so that's a plus. The second stage is chess, which also needs to be completed. Virgo understands that she is not very strong here, but even with preparation, she tries to win. There is no choice, since she failed the first competition miserably. You need to think and knit at the same time, but doing two different things at once is quite difficult. Virgo is trying to outplay fate and herself, but her opponent sharply asks the question, does she want to become the new queen? The beauty smiles, expecting to give up right away. For example, she didn't even try to do anything, because she perfectly understands that victory will definitely belong to Sasha, who always becomes the winner. Croft became so outstanding because she studied from birth. Virgo asks not to distract her from her embroidery, but there is catastrophically little time left, so nothing will be accomplished in any task. The brunette tries to brush it off once again, but they tell her that even in the embroidery, she accidentally made a mistake. The rival points with her finger that the friend sitting next to her has been weaving all this time. Turning her gaze to the embroidery, the lady cannot believe what she sees, because it causes physical, in the literal sense, pain that cannot be relieved. It was worth being more careful to avoid making stupid mistakes. Sighing, the heroine tries to calm down. First, you need to try to fix everything, because there is still a lot of time before the work is delivered. Now it's only the second stage, which means everything is going great. While the girl was lost in thought, her opponent beat her, saying that she had received checkmate, which means the game was over. Even in this stage she lost, but perhaps in the next one she will be at least a little more lucky. Further competitions were completed without any problems that could bother. The blonde they met raises her glass to congratulate Chelsea and everyone else on their perseverance. This is all thanks to my friends, because even if at first the craft was embroidered a little crookedly, everything was corrected so that in the end, everything turned out almost perfect. Elena watched only from the side, but was sincerely worried about the others. There was little time, and if they had given more, her friend would definitely have become the new queen of the academy, which would only have improved everything around her, because she would have been able to be close to Carmen. The beauty took second place in embroidery, which already meant something. Sasha took all the first places in all stages. This was quite obvious, because the whole people and even the other contestants supported her. Croft truly was like a princess, because she was taught etiquette and everything else from childhood that would be useful to her today. If Chelsea worked as hard as she did, she would definitely understand that it was easy for her. Still, no one knows whether the girl would have become the queen of the academy in this situation or not. She always faces a big choice, but no one knows what will happen in the future. Going out onto the balcony to get some fresh air, the beauty looks at the moon. There is no point in worrying or complaining about the past, because instead, you just need to try harder from that very new moment. The girl promises to show everyone next year what it means to be the best, and is about to take a sip of the drink when someone from above lifts up a glass in which liquid is splashing. As it turns out, this is Carmen. Turning, Chelsea looks at the young man, who asks what her friend is doing here, and then drinks the contents of the glass almost in one gulp. He doesn't yet know that he made a mistake. Grabbing her acquaintance's shoulders, the girl begins to actively ask how he feels. The drink was cherry instead of wine, and the hero has a cherry allergy, which usually manifests itself in the worst form. It seems that everything is starting because the body lights up a little scarlet, but this is not at all the case. This is all just a stupid illusion, but it was still not worth drinking the juice that he took away. The heroine begins to examine his hands, grabbing the young man's wrist to take a closer look, but this does not help. He moves away, admitting that he's a little awkward right now, whatever it is. The prince bows his head, saying that someone like him cannot show his weak side at all. For others, he must be ideal and brave, so as not to undermine his authority. The girl begins to laugh slightly. This is all because the blonde is too cute, and because he thought that his friend was drinking on the balcony, so he appeared there so quickly. In any case, it is not so important for them, because they are with each other. Looking at the young man, the beauty only sighs dreamily. Carmen is wonderful and caring, or rather, the way he should be if he is a real man. The only word that fits the description is miracle. Taking out a red box, the lady says that she has a gift that she herself prepared for her lover. She doesn't reveal the secret right away, so she pulls him into her arms first. The blonde looks at the thing from all sides with interest, wondering what's inside. He will have to open it to finally find out everything about the contents inside. There is some kind of scarf in your hands that looks wonderful, combined with blue and light tones. The girl herself came up with the design and then embroidered it to please the prince. Her cheeks turn red as she tells it. The brunette has only been embroidering for a month, so she asks not to judge harshly. She doesn't know for sure whether her lover liked this gift, but she really wants to hope that it's true. Turning to Carmen again, the lady tries to say something, but stumbles. She's glad that at least she did it well, because she wasn't sure of absolutely anything. The girl reaches out her hand to the boy, saying that she will try even harder, just to please him. Moments like these are truly valuable, no matter how things turn out. Before he can finish speaking, Lordling kisses Carmen, placing his hands on his cheeks. She doesn't let him leave because she knows that such rare moments cannot be missed. She finally had some determination. Finally moving back, the young lady straightens her hair, saying that this is all her declaration of love. This sign is not just empty, because in the kiss, the heroine put all her feelings that had been languishing inside for so long. The beauty says those very important words, telling the prince that she loves him. There is silence in response, and as soon as the guy opens his mouth, two girls on the other balcony shout at them that they are cute. It seems this couple is a first-year student. Noticing the looks, the ladies begin to apologize for interrupting, assuring that they just saw the couple by chance. The heroine assures that everything is fine, but in reality, she is incredibly nervous because she does not know how long they stood there listening. Realizing that they need to leave quickly, the lady pushes the young man forward, saying that they urgently need to go to the dance. From behind, shouts are heard that they need to return to the hall to watch their lovers longer. Going out onto the balcony was a huge mistake. The girl confessed, but in the end, the young man said nothing, which made it clear how strange and painfully embarrassing this situation was for both. Coming out into the hall, the girl begins to apologize. There were strangers there that made the moment too terrible, although it was not intended for prying eyes. I want to fall through the ground. Lordling just gathered her thoughts, and in the end, everything was destroyed. Now that day will be remembered by the fact that someone heard how the main character disgraced herself. It seems that Daylark does not pay attention to what is happening from the word at all. Turning to the guy, the girl laughs slightly nervously. It didn't turn out at all like she planned, but next time everything will definitely end much better than this one, because that's how fate was destined. The blonde smiles easily, understanding exactly what feelings his girlfriend is experiencing at the moment. It seems that she really wants to escape, but realizing that this is impossible, she tries to remain calm. Still, trying to help the beauty and diffuse the situation a little, the young man offers to go dance a little. He grabs the girl's hand to let her join the other couples who are already spinning on the dance floor. Without even having time to say anything, the brunette finds herself in the middle of the room, looking around so as not to look into her lover's eyes. She tries to restrain herself, but nothing comes of it. Noticing the expression on his beloved's face, the prince wonders what's wrong. He really thought that the heroine wanted to dance, and that's why she brought him back, so he remembers her words spoken on the balcony. Bowing his head, the blonde still collects his thoughts, because obviously something is bothering him. At the end of the competition, one girl confessed to him immediately after the end of the last stage. Of course, the guy was not interested in this, so he refused her, but he still considered it necessary to tell the whole truth to his friend, because she deserves to know. Carmen's hands were sweating, as if he was nervous. There is no point in starting a relationship, because if something like this happens, the handsome man will still tell it like it is. He tries to change the course of events, even after what happened. The guy is still the fiancé of his beloved, so this adds strangeness to the relationship. She doesn't even know where this will all lead, so she just smiles, showing a hint of joy. The handsome man knows how much Chelsea has liked him for a long time, so she asks him not to hide anything. If someone bothers you, you should complain immediately so that they can solve the problem together. On that day of the festival, the only thing that came out well was the embroidery that Chelsea did. Even the recognition was ruined, so the day will definitely remain in the memory forever, despite the future. I would like to think that the man will also remember this day. During class, Chelsea, sitting next to Helena, asks Helena why she keeps sighing so often. She again thought about Daylark, whom she missed so much, especially lately. The girl really misses the boy who spends too little time with her. Chelsea is already 18 years old, which means that quite a lot of time has passed since that very cherished day. Not understanding what exactly they are talking about, Brown says that they had a good time last time, which of course makes it clear that everything is great. Since that day lasts 3 years, and before entering here, they saw each other a little more often. No matter how hard the girl tried, and no matter how much she wanted to get the best, it seemed that they were going nowhere. Nothing changed, it just made it more stressful. This is not a reason to be bored, because you can do something else. Carmen said that he wanted to become a knight, and that he had exams soon for which he needed to prepare. He doesn't even have time to write a short letter. The exams last too long, which makes one thing clear. The beloved obviously does not rest at all, being in practice 24/7. Elena laughs slightly, reminding them that exams are also awaiting them all. The brunette doesn't ask for too much, other than the opportunity to do everything right. She wishes to become a little closer, thereby improving their connection, which is so fragile. The young man sitting next to him suddenly tells Chelsea to leave the prince alone. He's obviously really busy, and she's adding to his guilt. The guys who criticize Chelsea are twins named Mars and Chris Glam. The young man will indeed become an emperor in the future, so he must prepare from such a young age. The fate of the empire in the future and even in the present rests on Daylark's shoulders. He works tirelessly, he hardly rests at all. Carmen also needs a break from the beauty herself, who is too annoying. You need to find an activity that the beauty herself would like. There are many interesting things in the world that will help ease the burden on your soul and heart, as well as boredom. The girl herself is tired of pining for a person who behaves like this. It will be exactly the same in the future, so there is no point in thinking about the best. It will all be exactly like this. Despite the fact that Elena assures that this is not true, the girl almost begins to cry. She asks if even her friend thinks so. Perhaps we really need to find something worthy to do, because Carmen is already tired. If the heroine really wants to attract Carmen's attention, she can go on a date with him. A wonderful bakery opened nearby, but even this option is not the best, because the prince is allergic to their buns with nuts. There aren't many other ideas. The Duchess had already sent the man 1,000,000 gifts, which she selected very carefully, but he said that the handkerchief he was given at the age of 15 was quite enough for him. There are only 4 of them, and even no amount of talking helps. It's not really possible to come up with anything, despite all the efforts that are made. We need to think a little more, but after these words, Chris suggests organizing another banquet, which will help at least a little to dispel the boredom that is already escalating the whole situation too much. Chris thinks about what exactly he can do in the near future, coming to the conclusion that the easiest way is to arrange some kind of grandiose event in honor of his 18th birthday, which is even very welcome at the Academy. In honor of the upcoming marriage, you can also arrange a holiday and make it as beautiful as possible. This is a good reason, because all this can be well combined with each other. A great idea comes to the girl's head. Before the wedding, she will have a huge ceremony that has been prepared. It happens only once in a lifetime, so you need to think through everything down to the smallest detail. Glam didn't even know they didn't have a ceremony just like everyone else. So far, the couple is engaged only in words, which have not been confirmed by anything, but this will be even more interesting, since the girl plans to do something grandiose, after which everything will only get better. Everything seems great, but only for the time being. According to Chelsea, it would be great if the engagement took place in the Imperial Palace, because that is where they met for the first time. The plan had already been drawn up, and it seemed to be going well, strictly in accordance with everything they were doing. It is necessary to furnish the entire garden with flowers and Carmen's favorite saucers, which will help to understand that the engagement was the most wonderful in the world. Coming forward in a wedding dress, the lady notices a man who smiles lightly, greeting his beloved. They haven't seen each other for so long that this already seems strange. Showing off her engagement dress, the beauty spins around in a circle to show it all off. This is the same robe that was talked about so long ago and which turned out to be truly beautiful. Adjusting his beloved's tiara, the young man asks how long he was delayed. It should have been sent for earlier, so as not to keep anyone waiting, but this was organized only to show off the beautiful dress and suit. Nodding his head, the blonde confirms that everything is fine. His clothes were just right for him, just as he liked them. This was exactly what was needed. The girl is very worried, because very soon there will be an official engagement ceremony. The man was also surprised when he was told that everything had already been scheduled. He thought that they didn't need it, so he asked why it would be organized in the spring. There is a belief that if you get married in the spring, the marriage will be happy. The girl decided to check it out so that she wouldn't risk anything and get what she wanted so badly in the end. Going a little ahead, the beauty begins to talk about what a happy family life they will have. She wants children and also animals. I even had to come up with names in advance, purely out of boredom. They will be the most friendly and happy family, because this is exactly the future prepared for them. Turning back to the prince, the lady seems to be looking for confirmation of her words in his face. Stuttering a little, the blonde agrees, which causes another storm of emotions in the girl, who knew that everything would be like this. She wants to get only the best, knowing that everything will be great. The young man is not going to spoil anything, but immediately says that he had no expectations. He just thought it would be normal to get married and live a normal life, as if everything was exactly the same as before. All this is because they both want to live a normal, quiet life. Looking for excuses, the hero tries to say something, but every time everything turns out differently than usual. He wants to marry because his beloved wants him to. The brunette stretches her hands forward while continuing to ask everything. People should marry just because they like another person, and even more so when there is love in the relationship. For some reason, the words of the twins that Carmen is tired of the beauty seem to pop into my head on purpose. The way he behaves sows a drop of doubt in her head, thereby forcing her to begin the thought process. Looking into the eyes of the prince, the girl, almost in despair, asks him to answer whether he really loves her. I want to understand where the truth is and where the lies are, so as to be 100% sure. He likes Virgo, so all that remains is to do as she wishes in order to remain happy. All words cause disgust, because it's all wrong. Virgo wants to hear the answer to her question without any lies. Looking into Chelsea's eyes and noticing her tears, words are even more difficult for the young man. He doesn't know how to exactly phrase what he's going to say to her face, but he says he doesn't love her. She wants to know since when things have changed so much. The heroine always thought that they had an idol, but in the end, it turned out that this, of course, was completely untrue. She does not want to believe in something that is so difficult. The twins were right, because the girl was too persistent and annoying, so they were tired of her. This was precisely the reason why the hero avoided his love. She just wanted to be there, not expecting to bother anyone with her problems. It's not about what kind of lordling she is, or what she needs to be loved, but she doesn't want to listen to anything, just asking for the real reason so she can make things right. You can do anything for this. A girl can change anything for a blonde, because that's what matters to her. Moving the girl away, the hero only tries to calm her down, assuring her that if this happens, he will definitely marry her. Rejoicing, the heroine promises that they will be able to overcome all the problems that beset them only in order to become closer. The young man interrupts, saying that you don't have to love a person to get married. Even if there is no love, the prince promises to be a good and exemplary husband, which strikes Chelsea to the core of her soul and heart. He will also be an ideal father to the children, making for an ideal family life in the future. Marrying without love and pretending there is a spark there is stupid. Lordling understands that nothing good will come of this rate, so he tries to pull back just to finally calm down. The young man notices how much the atmosphere has changed, so he quietly asks what exactly the woman wants from him. She just answers with a simple, nothing, because at the moment, this is the truth. Chelsea turns around to quickly leave, but the hero tries to stop her. The reaction seems informal, but the feelings are rushing out, so the girl throws her hand away so sharply that you want to scream in pain. The girl always thought that their relationship was serious, so it would last for a long time. Everyone around who is in a relationship with them has love, but here is a person who doesn't care about anything, no matter what perspective you look at. Virgo dreamed so much of starting a family and living with her husband, and then even children. This will never come true again, unless she agrees to play according to a false script for the public and even for themselves. It really was a dream, but there is just one difference. The Virgo was sincere in her intentions all this time, while the guy lied, without even looking back to think about the feelings that he could have hurt. The girl wanted to start a family, but not a fake one, but a real one. She wanted this simply out of love and good intentions, but no one decided to help her with this, because her own fiancé trampled her pride into the mud. The heroine once thought that the couple would always be together because Carmen was the whole world. But times change. Running closer to the maid, the lady orders her to go home, not intending to listen to any unnecessary questions. On that very day, the maiden experienced sincere despair. She no longer knew how to live on and what exactly to do, because the best person in her life had just destroyed all the good things that happened between them. All this time, the lady mistakenly thought that she came into this world only for the sake of love. She didn't want to believe that she was still mistaken, because everything seemed so strange. Nobody knows who she was all this time for Carmen. Running into the house, the heroine sees her mother, who asks how everything went with Carmen. Instead of giving a normal answer, the beauty runs into the room like a whirlwind and closes the door behind her. Sitting down on the floor, the girl looks around. Tears blur your eyes, preventing you from properly seeing what is going on around you, thereby greatly disturbing you. The tiara falls from her head, spreading the sound throughout the area. Everything really was a lie, which I still don't want to believe. That sweet, handsome, open, kind, caring, and best man turned out to be not what it seemed at the very beginning, when they were children. The Carmen who has matured does not love the girl, no matter how much he wants to. Looking into those beautiful eyes when all this was said, the lady realized more and more that nothing could be fixed anymore, no matter how hard she tried. After a while, nothing has changed. Chelsea's sister once again came to the door, asking if the girl was sleeping. She doesn't try to come in because the door is closed anyway, but she looks too sad about the whole situation. Knocking on the door, the lady says that Lady Brown and the Glam twins came that same day, who wanted to talk to their friend and maybe even try to cheer her up somehow. The girl wants to know why her sister has not left the room for a week, because immediately after her arrival, she locked herself in the room, not intending to leave again. Everyone in the family is very worried, not knowing what to do next. Even my sister, who usually did not come to the estate, came. She was able to somehow open the door, trying to get inside and talk to the girl. It was as if eternal night had come for her, because the curtains were drawn. The girl doesn't leave the room for too long, as if her life had long ended before it even really began. As soon as the older sister found out about the youngest, she almost immediately rushed home. Opening her eyes, which have become swollen due to the amount of tears and everything else, the beauty looks at the girl who is standing right in front of her. She can't help but recognize her. The lady arrived, even despite her workload, because she knew that something was wrong. The girl locked herself away, without telling anyone around what the reason was, because she was in too much pain to feel anything. Without allowing the heroine to even get a word in, the brunette asks what happened that made her go into seclusion. I didn't want to embarrass the whole family, but in the end it all ended that way. The only thing the woman heard was that Chelsea went to see Carmen in a wedding dress. They were supposed to have an engagement ceremony and further discussions, but she returned all in tears. I couldn't believe the words spoken, but the lady still asks. It is obvious that Lordling broke up with her lover, because circumstances forced her to. If this is so, then even more questions arise. Virgo asks her sister about her purpose. She never thought about him until her uncle said that every person comes into this world for a reason. She thought about these words for a long time and decided to start her own family. Then the lady met her future husband and realized that her destiny was to marry him and have children. It turned out that all this was not true, because in the end, everything changed with the snap of a finger. After the question about what needs to be done, the brunette tries to smile, but says that even if she doesn't justify the groom, she still doesn't understand anything. An explanation was just given, but it didn't help at all. I couldn't believe that the girl really wanted marriage and the rest of the routine so much that in the end, she decided to mope like that. I had to try to change the situation and change my train of thought. The girl doesn't understand what we're talking about. She wanted to get married because she wanted to get married and also be close to Daylark. Everyone in the world wants it, and even if it happens late, it's still something important. The sister laughs, because in fact, this is not entirely true. Not everyone dreams of a fairy tale that will end on a good note, because not everyone is given this. Aunt Jenny in the castle has never married because she doesn't want to. There is no need to rush so much towards the purpose of life, because even if you do a lot of things, the realization of true happiness comes relatively late. Chelsea once asked what she should do, but only her heart can help her with this. If the sister had said what her role was in this life, one could safely say that she was born to protect herself and her dear people whom she loved so much. Carmen has nothing to do with what needs to be done in the future, because we are talking about only one person. Any role should be for its own sake. All this time, the beauty did everything that Daylark would like, but she herself did not think about whether she liked it. Now that the maiden's future is no longer connected with the prince, there is a strange emptiness felt, as if there is nothing left, even though everything seems to remain exactly the same. It's actually not all that bad. The beauty can do something else, not so strongly connected with Carmen, in order to quickly forget about the associated associations. The first thought comes about conscription. According to the girl, she did this because her fiancé liked it, but she learned this from her uncle even before she managed to meet the man. In her distant childhood, the little girl summoned a dog on her own. Her name was Camembert, and then everything was already quite serious, because not everyone has such abilities. Smiling, the heroine offers to do the calling. It would be nice to at least try to understand whether this is exactly the purpose of the young lady, or whether she should look for something else. The baby called the animal when she was very little, which means it will be more difficult to remember the thoughts that were in her head then, but it is still possible. Then an offer comes to join my sister's team. There was no trick. The only thing is that you don't need to be afraid of monsters, and then everything will be completely fine. If it is too scary or dangerous, no one will drag the girl with them to die. There is no point in being afraid. We need more acquaintances to help us forget Carmen, who now remains more in the past, which doesn't really matter that much. It will be difficult to forget your first love right away, but life does not end there. After some time, it will become much easier, especially if you move forward with some special person. They leave in 10 days, so during this time you will need to prepare. The brigade will also be ready, so if anything happens, everyone will cover each other's backs. When she is about to say something, the virgin quickly realizes that there is no point in it. She stretches her hand forward, but a door slams right in front of her nose and will not open again. A knight sounds interesting, but if you think about it, the heroine realizes that her former friend was also trained as a knight. So if she goes with her sister, there will be a chance to meet as colleagues, even if nothing else happens between them. Sighing, the lady wonders what to do. The mere mention of the possibility of doing something like that even makes the beauty wince, even if she tries to be calm. The brunette went straight to her mother. She promised that she would take Chelsea with her to take care of her while her mother slept at least a little, or finally get her nerves in order after everything that had happened. Smiling, the woman nods her head in agreement. It really would not hurt her to be given a little time to sleep, so all that remains is to agree to everything. For Lorling to see the world as it is, right outside the window, so this will not be a problem. The sister and mother are talking about the girl, who notices that she looks pretty bad, as if she really hasn't slept for days. I no longer want to burden my family, who have already suffered too much, so there is only one option left. Virgo agrees that they will have to go to the forest on a mission. That same evening, the heroine decided to start a new life from a new leaf, in order to get what she had dreamed of for so long. She hands the maid a bunch of things, saying that she is going to burn it all. I don't want to leave anything. Even if a lady once loved something like this does not mean that tastes do not change. She won't wear it just because she grew up and because Carmen complimented her. From the day the lady met the young man, she always kept anything that won his approval until the last. A dress or brooch that received compliments was never thrown away. Now nothing else is needed, and obviously will never be needed again. The girl was tired of her past, which was pulling her back so much. I didn't want anything to get worse anymore. I have to leave the capital because of Carmen, who, although he treated me well, never loved me in this life. The heroine realized this too late, and now regrets that everything turned out this way. Virgo no longer knows whether she will meet someone in this life who would truly love her, but hopes for the best. Receiving the diary from the maid, she wants to burn it herself, carefully examining the cover and several pages that no longer evoked the same delight for the last time. The girl throws the diary into the fire so that it leaves behind only a handful of ashes. My heart still hurts a lot, but my mind is very clear. They were friends who grew up together, so true love was out of the question. As my older sister said a little earlier, after a while, everything will be forgotten. Addressing the boy for the last time, the lady wishes him to quickly find true love, which will be completely different from their unsuccessful story. There is not much to hope for, but the lady still thinks about what will happen in the future for her. She wants everything to be as good as possible and to be able to find the best person in this life too. A couple of days later, the girl began to prepare. She decided to go traveling with her sister, so she read all the books on basic self-defense. I had to revise the entire library to achieve almost perfection. Uncle, who also spends a lot of time in this room, is surprised to run into Chelsea, who, as usual, has arrived on schedule to study. We haven't seen them for a long time, but we met in the library, which ranks second in terms of the number of books in the capital. There are books in this place that are so old that it is almost impossible to find them. The girl arrived at her grandfather's mansion, only to find the books she needed. Walking forward, she asks not to be distracted, because she understands perfectly well that there is no point in this. The young man is not busy, so he still offers his help. To begin with, he puts the box on the ground, coming closer to clarify what exactly the niece is looking for, which was not found in her native estate. We are talking about books about training knights. The beauty decided to go on missions with her sister because she wanted to unwind. It's never too late to see something new, so this activity is considered one of the best. When the baby was little, her uncle taught her all sorts of martial arts, so she already has a base. Looking straight into the eyes, the lady asks for help, because now that everything is easier, everything will be fine. There is silence in the room, but only for a while. Just a few seconds later, the guy smiles, saying that in any case he will help, no matter how things turn out. He is always ready to take such a step for the sake of his family, given that it is quite simple. Pointing his finger somewhere into the distance, the hero says that there are old books there that contain a lot of useful information. He promises to show a few that will be more suitable for his use in any case. Walking forward, the brunette says that what is happening brings back pleasant memories to him. When the girl was still very little, she always loved to read various books that came to hand. Over time, the beauty stopped doing this, as if she had completely lost any interest, but after everything that happened, she returned to the same place. The girl began to dream of a family home, but ended up getting burned. She didn't understand what to do, especially since she used to like something completely different, which made it clear what exactly was wrong. An hour after the maiden began a detailed study, she realized that finding something worthwhile was not so easy. She tried her best to make everything perfect, but in the end, it didn't work out. Each book turned out to have the same type of content, which incredibly irritated the main character, who was pretty tired of this. Even in the Magic Tower, they don't teach according to the same principles. With the help of the junk that the Virgin read, it will be extremely difficult to find something new. She herself is well aware of this, but she still sighs, because she was hoping for at least some small hint that would be given to her. At this rate, she will be of absolutely no use on the mission. It is clear that you need to think about this in advance, but still too many questions arise, because the sister asked to prepare well. So the heroine is going to work with professional knights, which only worsens the whole situation. Sometimes, you may even have to travel outside the Empire, if such are the conditions of the mission. Most likely, no one will be left with a choice. After the death of the last dragon, no major problems arose in the Empire, and all thanks to the hard work of the Imperial Knights, who faithfully serve this people as their own. No one knows who exactly the squad will meet on a mission, and if it is some kind of monster or a witch, then the girl must be able to defend herself, at least somehow, so as not to distract the others from the battle. Finally, at least something useful was found, after which the girl almost immediately returned to the mansion, realizing that she had nothing more to do with her grandfather. She found what she was looking for, even if it took time. I came across a publication of ancient magic, in which there were 3 volumes written in an ancient language that was not known to anyone until that moment. The beauty understood that this needed to be studied, but she found time for it. Numa is the name of that very publication. This book with a strange name probably contains special magical formulas, or so Chelsea herself wanted to believe in order not to let herself give up. In addition to all this, the collection was kept hidden in a box and wrapped in a gold chain. Such persistence made the girl believe even more that it most likely does not exist. She decided that many ancient spells were stored there. The Talmud looks very impressive, which once again convinces the beauty that she really needs to try to open this dark thing. If everything works out, she won't become a burden on the mission and will be able to perform at her best. Luck still befell the maiden, so she managed to open the book, but then a new disappointment awaited her, which she did not want to accept. The handwriting and text were so old, as was the language itself, that it became almost impossible to read even a few sentences. In any case, the beauty decided to try to conjure something else so that she could do something. She again takes up the little thing that ends up in her hands, trying to figure out what is best to do next. The first volume described magic that could resist any monster, but it has quite strong limitations. Despite all the complexity, in stalemate situations it still counts. In the past, magicians were strong enough to withstand Kara, and the magic itself was ornate and sophisticated, thereby helping them to always improve their skills and ultimately achieve an ideal in their power. Such spells have almost disappeared, as have those people who could use them, so a top like this turned out to be a godsend, even if for now it is almost useless, considering all the powers that the maiden has. If the lady could master all this, she would become invincible, but her skills would not be enough. The second book contains weapons effective against monsters, or rather a magic circle capable of summoning them. There is also a description of the types of weapons and their characteristics. If you think about it, this issue was quite useful, so soon the lady could not even stop reading page after page that slipped between her fingers. With the help of such a book, you can summon various creatures and then subjugate them to your will. If you know how to use it, you can use it at any convenient time. For submission, you should use strong chains that are endowed with a bit of magic. They will not allow the animal to tear them apart, thereby only making everything better. Perhaps Virgo should do something like this again, but this question seems too complicated. The maid brings the guest to the mistress, but it turns out that she is busy again. She again does not leave the room for several days in a row, even if in the end everyone should be glad that the girl stopped interpreting Carmen. The job is to prepare. A little earlier, the heroine told her parents that she was going to do a little exercise before the trip, thereby gaining many advantages that would help her as soon as they arrived at the meeting place and the hunt. The sister smiles. She would like to cheat with the heroine, but she understands that it is not worth it. It's nice to see when a person who has lost any meaning in life finds it again, like a phoenix that has risen from the ashes. The last volume turned out to be the most difficult. No matter how much the lady sat over the decoding, nothing became concretely clearer, even if progress seemed to be noticed. Several pages from the last volume were in the most terrible condition, which was even difficult to imagine. It was so tormented that it was unreadable, indicating that someone had used it the most. The name of the author has been erased, but the form and technique are exactly the same as in the previous ones, and given that they were the authorship of some RD, most likely this one was also from him. In a couple of days, we managed to explore everything as much as possible. After having to spend hours sitting in front of a book, the heroine is too tired, realizing that this is still not the end. She needed to find options on what to do when they went on their first mission in their lives. If the creator of this book were alive, it would be much easier, because you can ask directly. Unfortunately, this is unrealistic, and given that the girl is not a genius, she needs to study hard to make any progress. For some reason, the girl eventually gave up and decided not to delve too deeply into the volume that was not possible to read. She simply focused on magic circles and then began practicing summoning with the help of her new acquired knowledge. In order to get the necessary details of use, Chelsea drew non-stop all the magic circles that were mentioned so much. I wanted to get more attention to such details, but even this was quite difficult. Now only the magic circles of that same creator existed. Not only did he know how to use them, but he also came up with them himself, which made the lady want to meet even more than before when it all started. The Book of Souls and the Exchange of Souls sounded too attractive for someone as young as a girl who only wanted to prove herself surrounded by well-trained knights. A man approaching from behind frightens Lordling greatly. It turned out to be a man who appeared as if out of nowhere. Apparently Chelsea was so engrossed that she almost didn't notice her father enter the room. He tried to be as quiet as possible so as not to scare anyone, but he still failed. For some reason, the nanny and mother are also in the room, looking extremely worried. The heroine does not even suspect that this is all because of her appearance, which completely does not suit her. Just about to say something, the girl almost loses her balance, and then nevertheless falls to the floor, stretching out there unconscious. Overwork and sleepless nights gave their bad results within a few days. The sister, who was almost immediately informed of what had happened, also began to worry, although she did not quite understand how it was possible to read so much until she lost consciousness. She didn't even fully understand why this happened. Chelsea made everyone worry, but she herself does not want to admit her guilt. Even after everything that happened, she proudly believes that she did the right thing, because she needed this information for further action. The girl still asks for forgiveness. She had not studied so hard for a long time, so she got the opposite effect, which, on the contrary, did not play into her hands, given the state of her body. The sister reminds her that she lay there for 15 hours. The doctor said it was just fatigue, but that meant I needed more rest. Before this, reading for days on end wasn't the best idea, but in any case, it didn't turn out that bad. Tomorrow is departure day, so the first thing the lady is going to do is return the books back to her grandfather's mansion. The lady had already recovered, so, not wanting to hesitate, she got ready and went to the library. Chelsea's grandfather, who is usually busy with his own affairs, took time to spend time with his granddaughter, or at least meet her before she got ready to leave. The baby almost immediately flies forward to give hugs. The man returned because he heard that the girl was unwell, which is logical considering the state she was in after studying. The beauty was overtired from how many books she read. This turned out to be true, because now the granddaughter has come to return them back to where she took them from a week ago. I can't believe that the maiden managed to read everything she borrowed, because each of them was written in an ancient language. I had to take a dictionary, but at least it was interesting. Even with a dictionary, it is not so easy to read what was written in books. But grandfather decides not to talk about it anymore, so as not to start annoying the beauty even more. She is already walking ahead, talking about how wonderful the weather is outside. This child even understood what was written. The hero nevertheless decides to ask what the girl liked most, so she quickly says that it was the book with the chain, which became the best. The beauty must have read everything correctly, which is why she liked the publication so much. She doesn't expect anything, but the man hands her a gold chain, which, as it turns out, she deserves. Wingtooth is a chain that came with the book, since first it had to be untied, and then the luck would be mixed up. It was designed to suppress larger animals. Now this ideal weapon is in the hands of a girl who blinks her eyes in surprise, as if she had never seen anything like this before. She realizes that she does not deserve the gift, but accepts it. The lady is not sure whether she can use such a thing, but does not lose hope. In order to fully understand how a weapon works, it usually needs to be used before being judged. Calling out the first formula, the lady throws the chain forward. Immediately, there comes a feeling as if mana begins to leave her, so the confidence that she will be able to get it at least to the opposite wall becomes increasingly small. Hoping that everything will go as perfectly as possible, the beauty is trying to cope with the energy flow that envelops her inside, without intending to spare her at all. Still, nothing came of it, because the body was thrown to the side with force. The grandfather hurried to pick up his granddaughter, who began to apologize. She doesn't have much skill with items like this yet, because it remains a difficult level to achieve. The strength was exhausted by 2 powerful spells, as if someone had sucked out all the mana in one go. At this rate, even the heroine herself understands that no powerful magic will shine on her, given everything that will remain with her. The man is still trying to cheer up the girl so that she doesn't feel too guilty about what happened. This is a difficult artifact to use, although it was not worth the price of use until recently. Even if this is the case, and even if it is difficult, there is still a desire to at least try and learn. The Marquis listens to all of Lordling's wishes, and then, smiling, offers to take the little thing with him to do it. This can be considered a gift. Previously, the books belonged to the imperial family, and then they were simply given to the guy for safekeeping. A confrontation begins in the head. The girl doesn't know if she can take away such valuable relics, given that they were given away for safekeeping. The man smiles once again, saying that he is simply returning all the things that once belonged to Chelsea's mother. He speaks in riddles again. The girl thinks about the words that are spoken as if out of nowhere. Mom hates magic, so such artifacts or any books related to magic cannot belong to her. Coming back to the mansion in the evening, the lady tells her mother about what the Marquis told her earlier. She understands that this may not be the best option, but in the end, she knows what needs to be told. Accepting everything that her father passed on, the woman only says that she does not remember that she ever gave something like that to a man. He must have mixed something up, so now everything turned out this way. Stretching the chain forward, the beauty points to it, asking if it belongs to the mother, because according to the Marquis, everything was so. In the past, she was passionate about everything she did, so magic became its own important part in life. The mother's face shows horror when the chain is mentioned. She no longer knows what to say, so her daughter leaves her alone, saying that she still needs to pack her things. This is just an argument to leave quickly. Realizing that there will be no more chance to talk, the woman calls Chelsea closer to her. She wants to share something so that they can understand each other a little more. It all happened the day before the lady married the girl's father. In those days, my mother practiced magic, because she really liked it. It was then 601 according to the imperial calendar. The girl is studying and was so busy that she didn't even notice how the man entered the hall. He quietly placed his hand on the beauty's shoulder, thereby making her literally jump on the spot. The brunette notices that the daughter is too passionate about magic, as if nothing else in this world had ceased to exist for her, starting from the very beginning. It's interesting, especially healing magic. With its help, you can treat sick people, and even if this is not bragging, among magicians the class is the same as a maiden, there is no one better. Looking around the room, the Marquis notices some strange box that stands on the table. He doesn't know what's inside, just like the daughter, who is just about to ask her father about the origin. Lifting the little thing into the air, the brunette begins to carefully examine it to understand what exactly is hidden in the box. Obviously, this is a wedding gift from His Majesty. Examining everything that is needed, the hero comes to the conclusion that it is just a grimoire. This thing is quite valuable, and a magician like a daughter does not need to explain its origin, because everything is clear and without unnecessary words. The young man has never seen anything like it, so he guesses that the thing looks ancient. The book must contain many magical spells that were unknown to all other generations until now. Blinking her eyes in surprise, the heroine asks whether it is even possible to accept something so valuable. She never wanted to accept gifts, especially such expensive and weighty ones, considering that they were from His Majesty. No one knows how exactly the kingdom understood what exactly the girl liked, but that day she was too happy to think about it. On the day when the gift was in her hands, the lady still had a strong love for magic, like no one else in this kingdom. Everything was going great until the worst thing happened. The girl didn't even know that this was possible, but her mother got sick. She needed to be taken care of so she could feel better. The woman is holding on with all her strength, but it was something serious. Working with something like this was more difficult than it seems at first glance, so the little girl did not know what exactly should be done to be effective. No one knew how exactly Mother could be cured. The doctors turned out to be powerless, and no matter how they tried to fix everything, nothing really helped, as if it was going in vain. It was an incurable disease, from which doctors simply shrugged their shoulders, so all that remained was to test one's own strength. Coming to her mother, the girl, not holding back her tears, promises that she will do everything possible to make her get better. The Virgin thought that she could heal the woman with magic, and she would be able to attend the girl's wedding. Locked in the tower, she began to research healing magic. I had to study the magical formulas and potions that were available in order to somehow relieve the pain. The key to curing the disease had finally been found. This path was thorny and difficult, but in the end, everything ended exactly the way the girl wanted. Now she realized that nothing had been wasted. The lady sat in the tower almost continuously for 2 weeks, so she was even more happy. Now it will be better than it was before, so all we could do was rejoice. But for some reason, chaos was happening in the castle. Hearing wild cries of pain, and also people calling for help, the beauty opens the window to notice a sparkling flame that diligently strives to envelop everything around and squeeze it into its arms. There was a huge fire in the empire that was extremely difficult to stop. The carriages, like the houses, obeyed everything that stood in their way, thereby forcing people to surrender. Immediately running out into the street, the lady began trying to find the people who needed help the most. She is a mage from a healing tower, so for some reason she was sure that everything would work out if only she got their mana. The mana that the beauty had previously felt stopped working because it was impossible to feel it anymore. She realized that the magic stopped working quite quickly, as soon as it ended in a failed attempt. All this happened because of magic, which failed everyone around too much. The lady hoped so much for help from her arts to also heal her mother, but in the end, nothing worked, despite the efforts expended. When the girl returned home, her relative had already departed to the other world. The man, leaving the bed, asks her to say goodbye to her while he walks outside, giving them some privacy. These words were painful to hear, to the point of ringing in my ears. Losing magic is nothing compared to losing a loved one. The woman regretted that she spent all the remaining time studying formulas, which in the end turned out to be useless. She couldn't even say goodbye properly. If only the lady had spent these days with her mother, and not in a magic tower, perhaps she would not have wanted it so much. Sometimes you need to think before you do something, and this taught her an important lesson. If the lady had never used or learned magic back then, everything would have been simpler. Over time, the guilt only increased in size, so the beauty simply erased any memory of the tower and knowledge from her head in order to live happily. Everything was fine until the youngest daughter brought the dog, saying that she herself had summoned it, and then expressed a desire to become a magician. These words brought with them all the bad memories that I so wanted to hide away. The daughter became interested in this, which made the woman literally experience physical pain. She didn't want to scare Chelsea, but her legs gave way once again, proving that this was true. It was this science that became the subject of suffering and pain, which only undermined all trust. The heroine did not want anyone from the family to do this, which is why she protected them so much from all this. That is why the girl never encouraged her daughter, because she knew that if she pretended that it didn't mean anything, Chelsea would also forget about this, which is what eventually happened. She focused on love and her learning. The woman herself did not notice how she found a reason for suffering in a person whom she loved so much and who did not deserve it. Lordling was happily married to the girl's father, so this feeling was not familiar to her from the very beginning. She would have preferred to try to behave differently, but at the same time, she realized that there was no point in doing so. In the end, it became clear that the girl was completely different. She is so different from her mother that she did not even notice that she had been trying all this time to change the course of fate for both of them. Now we have to admit our own mistakes, which are not so easy anyway, at least not as easy as we would like in the end. Smiling, the beauty assures her daughter that she is a very smart child. She is what she should be, and in fact surpasses everyone else, because for her mother, she remains the best in this world. Rising from her chair, the brunette comes closer to her daughter in order to hug her. She knows that everything will be fine, so she wishes the girl all the best in this world. Luck must be on the heroine's side. The next day, the mission began, which in fact had not yet taken its place, because the guard had not reached the appointed place. The sister asks everyone to get ready, because everyone has a long road ahead, of which they can get tired. First, you need to finish checking the goods before dawn and complete all preparations. It's a simple mission that happens every month, but this time it's completely different. The girl's younger sister is traveling with them, so they need to look after her. Immediately after introducing the personality, the beauty was surrounded by various knights who wanted to know more about the girl as a person. Her intentions were not entirely known. They are too different because the captain is completely different. Looking at appearance and character, too many questions arise. Everyone wants to know how exactly the idea of becoming a prince came to mind. Putting her hands forward, the girl tries to deny. She's not like her sister because she ends up not even knowing how to defend herself. This could help with skills, but in the end, everything is completely different from what it should be. Before the border, as it turned out, there are not many dangers, and even if they arise, it will be possible to ask for protection from everyone else who is in the same place with the girl, because everyone promised to make the trip comfortable. They turned out to be too kind, which even raises questions a little, given this behavior. The heroine assures that everything is fine, because in the end, she knows how to fight, but not as well as everyone else, still remaining in good shape. Showing the chain, the lady assures that she can stand up for herself, but hears a whisper in response. In the circles of knights, magical arts are not so popular, but they have one person in their squad who knows such things. That man is good with a sword, which is why he is also a wonderful partner. It is clear that there are only advantages here that you don't need to try to look for. Pointing her finger somewhere, one of the girls says that the young man he is talking about is standing there. He has white hair that resembles snow, as well as beautiful white eyes. The Duchess had never seen him before. The man's name is Schwain Carter. He is the youngest of all the knights, because at the age of 10, he entered the magic tower to study magical arts, but only 3 years ago he decided to join the ranks of the knights. For this blonde guy's age, he is a pure genius that cannot be compared to. He is one of the best, and given his virtuosity, it becomes clear that he has no equal. The heroine meets for the first time someone who uses sword and magic. Before this, the first person was the maiden's uncle, but he is not considered because he is a relative. The first impression is very important for friendship, so the beauty is going to at least try her luck. Straightening her hair and thinking of what to say, the brunette comes closer, introducing her first and last name. She is the captain's sister and assumes the man's real name, even if it is clear that everything has already been told to her. The reaction turns out to be not quite what Chelsea herself expected. The man turns his head away, as if he doesn't notice the standing girl, muttering something under his breath in a dissatisfied tone that irritates. After everything, the young man obviously has no intention of saying anything at all. The situation turned out to be too awkward, which confuses the lady even more, because she stands open in the open. You shouldn't be fooled by appearances, so the beauty says that she heard that he masters both arts. Realizing that there will be no answer to this question either, the girl begins to ask about what kind of magic the young man uses. She understands that it is best to try to chat incessantly until he is completely exhausted and does not answer. In practice, using magic is not so easy, and in this case, it is true. The girl tried to practice before, but in the end, she wanted to learn about the experience of other people who already know exactly what they need to do to become the best. Smiling, the little girl asks to see how the young man calls animals, if he is also a summoner. In her heart, she hopes that eventually he will relax and finally start talking more. Still gathering his thoughts, the young man calls the beauty by name. She immediately perked up, but it didn't last too long. The hero understands that he is not a clown, but a magician, so he is not going to demonstrate anything. If a lady is looking for fun, she should bother someone else. After the words were spoken, the blonde defiantly turns around and then leaves the field where they were talking just recently. The hero just scolded the beauty as if she were 10 years old. He behaved completely differently than the brunette expected, so his behavior made her shudder somewhere deep in her soul. Nobody knows that the lady does not intend to give up so easily. She won't leave a man just like that, so during the trip she tries to ask more questions. The answer is again silence, or a request not to distract. While eating, the girl also faced a collapse, which made her doubt her abilities. The man once again asked to just let him eat in peace, and then turned in the other direction. The next day, everything was exactly the same. The young man simply says that he is busy with another training session, so he cannot afford to do anything. He completely ignores the beauty who is trying her best to reach out. One gets the feeling that the blonde hates his new acquaintance, because every time he refuses. After so many refusals, Chelsea wants to retreat even less, because she understands perfectly well what exactly will happen to her and what shame she will face. Sitting on a stone next to the training Schwein, the young lady carefully observes his actions, asking how he likes the moon today, which shines so brightly. According to the young man, it is clear that he just wants to be left behind. Realizing that she needs to act more decisively, Chelsea takes out a chain, which she throws forward. She wants everyone to know what a girl can be capable of. The chain was brought specifically to show off in front of a person who most likely knows nothing about such things. Smiling, the lady asks if Schwein knows anything about the ancient magic with which she is now playing. Coming closer, Carter assures that he understands that all this interest works only because of his youth, but this does not suit such a noble lady. He doesn't know of any spell that is so simple. The words were thrown casually, as if the young man was not worried about anything, and then he simply turned around and left, only before saying that it was not worth staying on the street at such a late hour. The next morning, one of the knights became the first to start a conversation with the young lady. He would like to know more from Lordling about what she would like to do on this trip and whether she enjoys it. In fact, the mission was quite boring. The whole reason lies in the fact that the Empire is too boring, but the plus is that we managed to relax in nature. A trip to the fresh air is always beneficial. When her sister said that she could go with her, the little girl guessed that everything would be exactly as it was happening now. She knew she had to try to do the best, so she armed herself with magic stones, which were of no use. For the girl, the trip still became a useful experience that she learned from everything that was happening around her. It was difficult for her to adapt, but she understood that in the end, everything would be worth it when she arrived home. It's a pity that they didn't use anything, but the only luck was that the heroine met another magician. Hinting at Carter, the girl says in a raised tone that he is not too talkative. Even the brunette with whom the little girl was talking immediately understood who exactly she was talking about. The blonde man, who never said anything, rides right behind the carriage and hears it all. After those 2 days that had passed, the lady concluded that it would be much more pleasant for her to talk even with a wall that would never contradict or turn up its nose. Mega help would be very useful, but you can't count on it. The girl learned to control the magic chain more confidently, but that's all that became available to her. Schwein came out onto the lawn and warned about the uselessness of the magic stones that they brought. He has been ignoring the beauty all this time, so she decides that she needs to do the same. Walking towards her shelter, the brunette pushes the young man with her shoulder, saying that he can bother someone else who will not try to interfere in this way. Walking forward, the lady hears Sir Carter asking where the woman is going, but she just snorts. He shouldn't care about useless details like this. Again, the patronizing attitude begins to irritate. The girl mastered calling at the age of 8, so she can then pay attention to other things and go about her own business, which has nothing to do with it. The woman is determined. She will communicate in exactly the same way and not even for 1 day, and she is not at all interested in how exactly Schwein will react to this. The young man does not try to stop the beauty walking away into the distance, only saying that he really has no idea what kind of magic would be most suitable for the captain's younger sister. It is clear that this is difficult to select. The known magic is not that useful, so the hero switched to the sword. The only thing he can show is how to summon white wolves, which immediately respond. Nodding, the girl is about to say something else, and yet asks why she was ignored for so long when it was possible not to do so. This turned out to be not entirely true. The young lady doesn't understand anything at all, so she asks the blonde again, who, if he knows, should at least explain. While the couple searched for a suitable animal, the young lady listened to the story of why this happened. It turned out that from the day Schwein entered the academy, his brother also began to get interested in summoning various animals. At that time, the blonde had just entered the magic tower, but his brother firmly decided to follow in the footsteps of his elder, so as not to bring him even more inconvenience and make him proud. Trying not to interrupt, the maiden serves until the very end. Everyone knows that a magical beast is capable of suppressing the mind, so the hero did not dare to train the guy because he was afraid of harming him. With Chelsea, the story is exactly the same. He saw in the lady his brother, who had once asked him to instruct him in the same way as the girl had done recently. This is not a reason to be rude and ignore, but a moment comes to mind when the sister took care of the girl. It can be understood, because close people always worry about each other more than others. Asking if the lady is like her sister, she expects to hear an already familiar speech, which is what she ends up listening to. They look a little similar, but their personalities are still too different. People will never be identical. So that the lady does not say that the brunette, unlike her, is good, they ask her not to belittle herself. An awkward thank you comes out, even if she doesn't quite understand why he's suddenly throwing around compliments. Turning around to look at the moon, the beauty notices a strange kind of tree. It may seem like it, however, in her opinion, he was not there before, which makes her question the veracity. The white wolf lowers its head to sniff the road, and then points to the tracks of the animals. They're fresh, so there are likely wolves nearby that wouldn't be as friendly. There seems to be only one animal not too far away. He has fallen behind the pack, so you should be more careful. There won't be much damage done, but it's worth at least trying to escape if possible. A plan for what could be done had already begun to mature in the girl's head. Subduing a wolf is much cooler than just a hawk, and then, having brought him to the camp, the heroine will receive praise and, most importantly, self-confidence. I want to see whoever is coming as soon as possible, but a strange feeling never leaves the girl's body. There seems to be something strange and viscous that envelops the couple. The man nods. He was not the only one who felt strange vibrations around the strange tree, which, in his opinion, also appeared as if out of nowhere. Things may not end very well. Turning to his companion, Schwein suggests going back. The wolf will find his way back, so there is no point in worrying. One of the animals suddenly begins to hiss. Looking closer, the couple notices another wolf in a puddle, making everything obvious. They may be attacked. Realizing that he urgently needs to return, the blonde shouts about it, even if he realizes the whole reason. He noticed a strange luring sequence from the direction of the tree. Just about to run, the beauty freezes. The ground underfoot begins to collapse, preventing people from evacuating in time. The girl flies into the pit, and the young man follows her, while grabbing his body to wrap her in his arms. This doesn't help anything, but it creates the illusion of calm. It is difficult to open my eyes. One of them never opens, while when you try to get up, you want to scream at the top of your lungs. The brunette is going to look around. Sitting directly in front of her is a blonde man who looks shabby but remains calm despite the scarlet stains spreading across his shirt. Covering her face with her palm, the lady asks Carter what exactly happened. She remembers absolutely nothing, considering the fact that she had to hit her head on the ground. Opening her eyes and adjusting her vision, the girl falls into horror. She sees, right a meter away from them, a huge dark wolf, around which lie two dead white ones that Schwein brought with him. The young man put up a barrier, so even if the animal woke up, they would be completely safe for a while. The problem is that the wound won't heal, so something needs to be done before the wolf gets the scent. This is not just a giant monster, but one of the bloodthirsty wolves that every self-respecting knight has probably read about. I can't believe what was said is true. This is the same monster from the north that came from somewhere in this area. Their population has long since died out, but this obviously has not changed anything. Schwein is in despair. He also thought that there was no one left, but it turned out to be completely different. One somehow managed to survive. As a result, the heroes fell into a real trap. The wolf blocked the exit, but if you touch him, he will immediately wake up, which is no better, because he will have to fight. There is zero chance left. They will be able to get out only if the couple defeats the monster, but no one is confident in their abilities. The monster is huge, so the strength of two will definitely not be enough. While chaos was going on in her head, the lady did not notice how bad Carter felt. He went forward to fall on the body of the heroine, who worriedly began to ask what exactly was wrong. Everything turned out to be not as important as at that moment. Her eyes widen in surprise because the girl notices blood on her hands. Sir didn't use too much mana because he was simply exhausted due to the large wound. Laying the man on the ground, the lady examines the wound. It turned out to be heavy and was obviously caused by a fall. The young man protected the Duchess's body when they fell and when she lay unconscious at the bottom. Helping the blonde get comfortable, the lady anxiously asks whether he can move. Everything is not as good as he wanted, so the interlocutor suggests leaving him alone. This is a wolf that, even if it is too big, is still not as powerful as it seems at first glance. You still won't be able to get out. The couple fell straight into the beast's lair. It was the strange tree that warned of danger, but they felt the strange energy too late. When everything happened, there was no more meaning. They will be able to get out, but only one of the two thinks so. There was an illusion near the place that was clearly a trap. They knew that a normal barrier did not reflect mental influences. That is why the trap was set in that very area. The bloodthirsty wolf will tear both of them apart as soon as he wakes up from his sleep. The worst thing is that the barrier put in place only made the whole situation much worse. Because of him, there was almost no chance of salvation. The statement does not require explanation, because the knights cannot notice them while they are from the outside and they are under the barrier. All escape routes are blocked. You have to try to get out so as not to give up, but the blonde doesn't intend to do that. He lowers his eyes to the floor, asking forgiveness for putting the lady's life in danger like this. The hero can set the lady free, but he himself will not go anywhere because of the wound. He offers to throw him in a cave because he is not afraid to die. Only Chelsea must survive at any cost. Trying not to give in to tears, the brunette asks him to shut up. She promises that she will definitely come up with something and knows for sure that she will be able to do it. Not listening to everything that is said, the blonde continues to apologize for avoiding Lordling, blocking any opportunity to even talk. The heroine knows that even if Carter holds the barrier, it will not help. The wolf will tear it apart as soon as the battle begins, so all that remains is to try to do something alone. A brilliant idea comes to mind. The beauty smiles to herself because she knows that now she will find an exact way of what can be done with the wolf as soon as the barrier is removed. A few minutes ago, Schwein said that there was only one animal left and the rest had died out. You can use this information to your advantage. If there are two of them, then the monster is in the minority. You just need to get him out of the way and then try your luck and try to get out so that everything works out. The girl asks for help with advice on taming. She can draw magic circles, but has never used them in practice, which poses a problem in battle. The man does not know how exactly he can help because he has never taught anyone magic. The wolf is one of the highest monsters. There is a high probability that the monster will simply tear the lady into two parts, so once again, she has to ask her to run away. This idea is not the best, but the girl herself believes in luck. There are two of them, so the beauty does not want to leave alone. Tying her hand with a chain, the lady once again asks if they will help her with obtaining the will of the animal that will need to be subdued. The girl does not ask for so much, because she just needs help. Sighing, the young man agrees, gritting his teeth. He is ready to try to do everything possible. The magic stone and the basic diagram are in your pocket. All necessary formulas from 1 to 25 are imprinted on the body. Everything may work, but there may not be a chance to fight one-on-one in the event of an attack that is unexpected. The first step is to find contact with the greater familiar and prepare the chains that will be needed to subdue it, with quick completion. The young man asks to keep his distance. Even if this complicates the situation a little, at least this way the virgin will not suffer so much. As he pours the stones into his palm, he also asks that the barrier stones be placed there. This is enough to keep you safe for a while. It will be quite difficult to hold out for a long time. But still, hoping for something, Lordling asks this question to his companion. It's impossible to say for sure. If the monster wakes up and attacks, there will only be 10 minutes left in which to deal with everything. Everything will be fine, even if the lady cannot even imagine what will happen if the barrier crumbles a little earlier than the present time. Grabbing the chain, the lady inspires confidence even with her attitude. She can handle it so they can both survive. Nodding, the blonde also reminds that the basis of submission is dominance. We need to try to do everything as well as possible. Under no circumstances should you look away, otherwise the wolf will feel fear. This won't end well, but the lady knows the basics. The beauty knows how to look away. She did the same for 18 years with Carmen, so she's sure. The lady really hopes to finish while the animal is sleeping, so in her head, she asks him not to wake up, launching an arrow. The request did not work the way the beauty wanted. The wolf suddenly opens his eyes, which glow with a scarlet hue. Jumping up from its place, the animal begins to growl menacingly. He beats off the chain with his paw, which almost came close and became successful. You need to try to remain without panic so as not to worsen your condition, but it is difficult. The body flies off somewhere to the side with a roar. It seems that the wolf is really so strong that nothing happened. Hitting the chain at that speed seems almost impossible. Be that as it may, she must finish what she started. The way back, and that says it all, so the lady swings the chain again. You need to knock out the wolf, and only then can you try to subdue it. Everything seems too complicated than it seemed in my head. Everything seemed to work out, because a huge stone fell on the animal's tail. He can no longer move, which makes the whole task much easier. Now you need to start printing. The heroine hopes that the animal has not died, because she does not want to be left without the familiar she wants. Bringing the edge of the chain with her, the lady seems to be saying out loud to herself that it will hurt a little when she applies the sharp edge to the edge. Being so carried away, the heroine herself did not notice how a huge paw rose above her. She hits him hard on the back, making it impossible to stay in place. As the wolf walks around the circle, Chelsea manages to get up and call seal ceremony number 1. This is one of the simplest and most important ones, so it gets easier. After this, the chain begins to wrap around the animal's neck. The wolf tries to growl, but it's all in vain, because of course, it doesn't make any sense. Virgo asks for forgiveness for not looking at the rear view in time while holding her wounded hand. The girl was lucky, because she managed to get caught by the wingtooth. She promises Carter that they will leave as soon as this is over. There are 25 seals, which should have just enough mana. Again directing all her strength towards the monster, the lady orders him to obey, because she hopes for success. The wolf will belong entirely to the heroine, who understands that this will be the case. He doesn't dare resist. After some time, it seems that the end has come. The lady rises a little from the ground, trying to figure out what to do next. There is no time for joy, because we need to finish the fight. She again does not notice how the dog's mouth opens behind her. Her teeth click loudly just above her ear, causing the beauty to fall to the ground. She almost didn't have time to dodge. The barrier is all that protects the beauty, even if very soon it falls. For some reason, dealing with the animal turned out to be more difficult than it seemed. The wolf does not listen, just like at the very beginning. Mana is running out, but I don't want to repeat it. Turning back, the lady looks at Schwein. Images pop up in her head, so the girl immediately vividly names the seal ceremony, formula number 1. The monster will belong only to her. It is clear that if the girl is overtaken by collapse, she and the guy with her will die without ever seeing the light of day. The wingtooth still wraps around the body, so there is hope. To complete the ceremony, you even need to understand that the caster is stronger than the familiar. Now the seal ceremony, formula 2, is used. The animal must lend its strength while the lady gives away some of her magic. The Book of Souls is the last hope. It is obvious that the struggle can continue almost indefinitely. For some reason, you can't bind him with your strength and will, which are powerless. Nobody gives up. The fight is slowly gaining momentum, but even so, the chances are still quite small. Chelsea doesn't even know exactly how much time has passed since the beginning. A lot of things happened that it's impossible to remember. The pain in his left hand had already become familiar, and the wolf's gaze was drawn in, because he was trying to read emotions in order to grasp weaknesses. Fortunately, after such a long fight, the animal was also tired. He no longer even looks into the soul, just standing quietly in place with his eyes closed. There is very little left, but the limit is being reached. This is how it will all end, but what is more important is that the family will be upset. The image of a blonde prince comes to mind. Carmen will be upset too, but that's the last thing I want to think about. Lordling tries to get bad thoughts out of his head. She hasn't lost yet, especially since giving up means admitting defeat. The third volume, The Book of Souls, is the meaning in the title. The reason why the contents of the third volume are not clear is that it was never explained what condition is required to reinforce the magic formula. Almost all formulas are based on the type of mana exchange, but there are also special conditions. Surely the price of the exchange is the soul of the caster. That is why it is more like a ritual, since the final words are always about the magic that is passed on in exchange for the power of the animal. If all the guesses are correct, then the formula from the third volume will only need a drop of magic, which is almost gone. Perhaps the soul exchange means the lady will die, but if nothing is done, they will both die. We need to try something new. This spell is the last chance you should try to use. In any case, it can't get worse. Trying to defeat a bloodthirsty wolf in battle is tantamount to suicide. The stakes are high, but in the end there is nothing to lose. The tiny chance of survival is worth the fight. The soul will be given, and in return the animal will lend its strength. It's finally finished. The wolf stands nearby, looking with amber eyes, which the main character also has. After the strength was exhausted, all that remained was to pull out Sir Schwein and find a sister to help with the wounds. I want to jump for joy, but I have no strength left. We managed to subdue the bloodthirsty beast, which now stands and wags its ears and tail. Pointing forward, the lady asks to take Carter, but she does not like that he grabs the body in his teeth, thereby touching the wounds. Screaming that a man is not a piece of meat, the heroine jumps up. She is no longer in the cave where she was before. Turning around and trying to find familiar faces, Lordling notices a maid who flinched a little from the scream. After that, the parents arrived in the room. They hug their daughter, wailing about how much they worried. My sister also came running immediately after the notification. She, like the others, is incredibly happy because everything ended well. 4 days have passed, which puts the girl into a stupor. She asks to tell all the details that are already known. The couple stayed in the cave for 2 days. As it turned out, the guild searched around the clock without a moment of rest, but the one who found the maiden was Carmen. After that incident at the ceremony, the beauty did not communicate with him. He voluntarily joined the search party. Too much has happened, and it all happened in just 1 week, which already seems incredible. Did the bloody wolf run away on its own, or was it driven away? It remains to be seen how the knights discovered the two behind the barrier, and whether the victory was really just a dream. There was indeed an animal there, and the knights had to try hard to get a couple, but everything was fine with Carter. A smile instantly appears on the young face. This is what I wanted to hear about the health of that young man, because he was seriously wounded. Then Chelsea thought that the blonde was seriously injured, so she was worried. It would be nice to go and discuss what happened. Perhaps the best solution would have been to postpone the meeting, but the brunette still decided not to put anything off. She had to find out everything. Still, the beauty went, even if she perfectly understood that this was not the best idea out of all available ones. It was impossible to sit still. The girl came up with all sorts of horrors, but in the end, the greeting servant turned out to be nice. Thoughts were interrupted by Carter, who left the room, greeting the heroine. Almost from the start, he asks to be called by his name. The girl almost jumps up and tries to swallow the tea. It was too sudden considering they hadn't spoken before. After everything that this couple had experienced, there was no point in addressing each other so formally. Instead of answering anything, the beauty leans forward, examining her entire body for scars. The doctor did an excellent job. A man should worry more about a lady, but in any case they can switch to names, because it will be fairer. Covering with a light blush, the young man nods. It is noticeable that he is a little nervous, but at the same time very happy. Sitting down at the table opposite, the hero moves on to the topic. He wants to know how he managed to defeat the wolf, because the lady was left without magic. That is why the girl came to discuss everything. She tried to resist, but in the end she managed to subdue the animal. Everything turned out as it should have, because Chelsea used ancient magic from the Book of Souls. She took it from her grandfather's library. The blonde is noticeably nervous, but more so. He doesn't know if it's right to talk about something like that if the ancient magic is kept strictly secret. This is not so important, because it is more interesting to learn something new. This might even end the feud between the couple. After the story, the young man is more confused. This book uses soul instead of mana, which sounds quite dangerous. This is a great option for those who don't feel connected to mana. If they can even cast spells like that, it would be very useful in battle. The soul is still too abstract a concept, but still worth it. It looks dangerous, but is actually quite effective. What the girl says only means that she wants to test the magic before showing it to everyone else. It is impossible to reveal to the Tower of Magicians and the people what is not fully understood, so the brunette asks for help. She wants to know more. A few days later, the two went to study the Book of Souls. The little fox is also participating in a new experiment. As soon as the lady orders to begin, the young man pronounces the cherished words and waits until the power envelops them both. Everything is completely different from what it seemed at the very beginning. They are enveloped in clouds of smoke, which gradually begin to settle. The magic didn't work, which meant the experiment was a failure. You need to try this many times until you succeed. When Schwein first began to study magic, this happened all the time, which only shows his inability to use spells. The girl never had failed attempts, because from the very beginning each of them was more successful than the previous one. This raises questions. The man asks to tell everything about the book, as well as the exact sequence of actions to subdue the monster from the lair in the forest. The girl did not fully understand the formula because everything was written too illegibly. She's just about to start the analysis. Sitting down at the table, the young man asks to lend him the book, and preferably the chain that the friend used. There is a restoration department in the tower, so once the instructions are correct, it will become a little more clear. Standing back up, the girl nods. She promises that she will bring the book, and the man can thank her for this. The young man kneels next to the lady, who does not immediately understand what exactly is happening, so she backs away. The blonde thanks his friend for saving him, while risking his life, although he could have simply run away. He kisses the lady's hand. The girl interrupts to ask to be called by her name, and receives a smile in response. It's nice to be treated the way they say. Arriving back at the estate, the girl notices the maid running as fast as she can. Some important guest has arrived to see the lady. The heroine was not expecting anyone, especially so late. In the distance, you can see a carriage with the imperial name, so it becomes clear who exactly has arrived. Passing by, the lady asks to tell her parents that she will be a little late. She needs to have time to resolve all her issues before she returns. Carmen must have arrived because his friend was hurt. The young man worries about the girl, even if he could not fall in love. The blonde man steps out of the carriage, immediately smiling. He is glad that his friend was okay. The girl notices that the prince's face has become a little haggard. Coming closer, the guy asks for forgiveness for arriving so late. He was too busy, but still found time. The girl assures that there was no point in this. She is completely fine, even if they were so worried about her. Nerves begin to set in, but Chelsea tries to hold on. It's just been a long time since the last meeting, so there's no point in worrying. The hero offers to talk, and the friend agrees. It's funny that early on, she wasn't the only one who dreamed of marrying him as soon as possible. As a result, the beauty never made it to the ceremony in a wedding dress, so, forgetting the past, she thanks the blonde for her search. The young man thought only about his friend, so he decided to help. Feeling guilty, the lady says that on the day of the last meeting, she was too upset to think logically. The whole problem was that I didn't want to marry without love. It all seemed too wrong and strange. This is not the fault of either party, so the beauty tries to cheer up the young man, asking for a hug, at least for the last time. They can always remain friends so as not to interrupt their childhood friendship. This is the most optimal solution. The man Lordling loved actually turned out to be good, but just not for her. He doesn't like the girl, and that's okay, because he doesn't have to. Now there are no more disagreements that would only hinder the path to achieving perfection. Looking into Daylark's eyes, the young lady silently bids farewell to her first love. Just about to leave, the guy asks about the academy for the last time. He would like to know if his friend will return there. It's awkward to ask, but there's too little time left before graduation. The lady defended herself in class for various reasons, and thought that she had already been kicked out. It's time for both of them to go their separate ways. It's nice that friends were finally able to talk like humans, leaving aside all the grievances from the past. The feelings remain too strange. She thought it would all be over after the breakup, but she just made a new friend. From this moment on, the lady promises to work towards achieving her goals. Going out into the clearing during the day, the maiden is going to call a wolf. She can't sit idle. Perhaps the chain can be used to summon that animal, but this has not yet been tested, so the lady begins the ritual. The call seems to be working, because a strong wind begins to blow from the other side, which cannot calm down properly. Instead of a bloodthirsty monster, a small wolf cub appeared from the forest, more like a small dog wagging its tail. Looking at the baby's eyes, which are exactly the same color as the heroine herself, she slowly begins to realize the truth. Raising the baby in her arms, the virgin examines him from all sides. I don't want to believe that he is the one who was defeated not so long ago in the cave. That wolf was definitely bigger and had sharper teeth. It's all about the connection with the person, even if it's not entirely obvious. Attention is distracted by a scream from the bushes. The lady heard that large animals live there, so she opens the foliage. An eagle has landed near a tree and turns the bunny on its side. He caught prey that made sounds. Perhaps it would be better to test the theory and thereby subdue the eagle, but for now it is not entirely safe. Without realizing it, the baby releases a magical force that rushes out strongly, as if this is already the end. After that time, the magic seemed to double, so Chelsea orders the eagle to obey her will. In return, the bird must lend its strength, which will be perfected with the easiest ritual, but nothing works. Over time, everything worked out, and the lady was even surprised that everything turned out so easily. Magical power seemed to spread throughout the body. With that much mana, you can even fly. Picking up the wolf cub, the beauty begins to seem to float in the air. The baby doesn't quite understand what's going on, so he just looks at everything that's going on around him, even noticing a butterfly. The high-level beast was even a little scared, even if nothing had happened yet. Readiness becomes the beginning. Flying into the air, the heroine throws the animal into the air because he also manages to start flying, which seems funny. Somewhere, an eagle flies high, which was the one who lent all the power. She reaches out her hand to call the bird. Sitting down on the soft back, the girl screams with joy. Adrenaline bubbles in the blood, which makes you engage in recklessness. A few days later, the beauty delivered the puppy to Schwein, saying that it was a wolf who shared his mana with her. Holding the baby forward, the girl continues to smile. This seems incredible, but you can still believe it. Carter had never heard of a beast that gives magic to its caster before. This seems too strange, but you can still believe it. During normal contact, the caster transfers his mana to the beast, but this time everything turned out completely the opposite. The case does not suit the rest. This is a real breakthrough in the field of magic. The girl herself does not realize her happiness and how beautiful she is in herself. The wolf cub is trying to say something. He tries to speak, but no one is sure if he understands most of what he says. This is all due to the total mana. It seems that the maiden made a discovery, which is even scary to realize, given everything that is happening. The woman brought a book that a friend asked for. We are talking about the connection of souls, but it was not possible to fully understand it. The Book of Souls, Pneuma, involves the exchange of souls between the summoner and the beast. The translation is quite simple, even with a dictionary. After thinking a little, the beauty realized that a translation could also be a ghost, a body, a vessel, and also a mind. Ancient people believed that the soul is the human mind. Understanding is different from how it is presented in the present tense. The soul, which is referred to in the book, is connected with mana and other magical departments. This became known from the first lines. Usually, when someone casts a spell, he uses mana, but if you use too much, the physical shell will suffer. That is, pain will appear in the body. Then, when the maiden tried to use the third volume, she did not feel as if her strength was leaving her, even if she was tired. There are only two assumptions. First, if it was the mana of the beast, this may be quite correct. Second, the girl has a lot of mana from birth. Huge, powerful energy is sometimes found in people's bodies. Nodding his head, the blonde agrees with both theories they are now using. This seems to be true. The girl is truly different from all the magicians she knows, which even makes Schwein constantly surprised. It would be great if in the future everyone could use this principle. Then the summoned animals and the common ones could live in peace and harmony. It's still about submission, but the young man doesn't think things are as rosy as in Chelsea's head, which started talking. Until nothing is known about magic, it is better to keep it a secret. Until the side effects are known, it is better to remain silent. The first thing you should do is go to the magic tower. The tower library has everything about magic, so it will be easier to study literature together. Carter promises to contact the magic tower and give the exact date. He will definitely be able to schedule an appointment as quickly as possible. The library of the magic department is not very large, but it contains the most useful items that can be found. Among them, there are rare publications, and even the interior is beautiful. When the girl was little, she often dreamed of going there. What struck Miss Lordling most was the owner of the magic tower. He was so majestic, as if an emperor was standing in front of her. At that time, the tower had fallen into disrepair, so such a meeting on his part made everything much better than it actually was. Walking further, the young man asks them to hurry up so that they can find the ancient grimoires. They must be in one of the sections. After an hour of research, the hero holds out the book while asking the girl to look at it a little closer. It talks about selling your soul. The story of a man who sold his soul in exchange for power and became unhappy. The story is a bit like Chelsea's. There used to be a man who wanted to be powerful, so he made a deal. The hero truly received the power he wanted so badly. He began to conquer the world, which he did very well, considering that he used his magic. Before the young man had time to conquer the whole world, he died a terrible death, and then, as everyone knows, he doomed himself to torture. The wounded soul could not withstand such pressure, so the young lady shakes her head, because the story is still nothing like her. If power falls into the wrong hands, the whole world will end, as such cases are thoroughly investigated. Talking about how power really needs to be hidden, the lady hears how the owner of the tower came to greet the couple. Bowing in greeting, the young man introduces himself as Cloudwain. It is a great honor for him to meet Chelsea. Shifting his gaze to the baby on his lap, the hero asks about the bloodthirsty wolf, who is now sitting calmly on his lap. The girl decided to remain silent about the book, so she decided to start making excuses. Cloud was a little wrong in his guesses. The blackling is not the same wolf because it is a new species that was found quite recently. Perhaps they will still believe it. Holding the wolf cub forward, the girl assures that he is not like anyone else. With her eyes, she asks to be believed. Smiling, Wayne praises the girl, because for a novice magician, this was a pretty good result, which she achieved on her own. A girl can become a student of the magic tower. She is given time to think, since any decision will be normal to make. Usually they become the successor of the tower after the contract is concluded, so they agree, and indeed only a few. I don't really want to, but the next morning an article appeared that Chelsea would become the new mistress of the magic tower. The lady refused, but for some reason this article was published anyway, even without her permission. I don't want to interfere in politics, so I had to answer, no. The maid who knocks on the door brings in a stack of papers. The lady received a bunch of letters that are impossible to read due to the quantity. Letters arrived from other countries asking for help in studying and other rubbish that is completely unimportant. The girl is too busy to do this kind of thing, so she asks everyone who sent letters to refuse. I also received a letter from a person who should not be ignored. The woman looks tiredly at the maid to understand what exactly is being said. This man still will not tolerate delays because the letter came from Lady Brown, who wants to visit an old friend. Elena was the only one Chelsea agreed to meet with. When she meets a girl, she runs to hug her as quickly as possible. The maiden immediately begins to ask about rumors about the taming of a new type of beast and about the magic tower. The girl doesn't know how the newspapers know so much about everything in the world. She can only hope that everything will end, as usual, not too badly. Elena jumps up sharply, starting to ask whether this is true or not entirely. She wants to know all the details that are possible. The rumor that Chelsea broke up with Carmen is also true. This is an unpleasant topic to talk about, but still important. Humming, the heroine nods her head. Rumors have already reached even the academy, which upsets her a little. It is impossible to do anything about this because everything is in the past. This is relative because no one directly says that the couple broke up. Everything Brown heard had a neutral overtone. My parents didn't believe it at first either, but in the end, it all ended sadly. The love story ended in failure. Sighing, the beauty says that she also broke up with that guy from the festival. They didn't get along. That man turned out to be terrible and made the girl constantly feel inferior in terms of social status. Marriage is, first of all, harmony between people, as well as mutual understanding. I didn't even have to endure any more antics. This was all that my friend wanted to tell me. After a while, they just chat, starting to laugh about all sorts of jokes from the past. When the heroine is a celebrity, a lot comes out. Virgo realized that those around her had changed too much. When the lady was in love with the prince, she thought very narrowly and stupidly. After the breakup, my views on relationships changed 360 degrees. Many sages claim that love is the main goal in life, and even in fairy tales, it has been portrayed as something magical. They say that marriage is possible without love, so in reality, everything turned out to be completely different. You can just take your husband's last name and live happily. The lady felt stupid for the first time when she tried to convey her feelings to someone. Love is disappointment and deception. Arriving back at Mr. Schwein's estate, the lady opens the door with her foot, greeting everyone as "my dears," copying the main tower. So far, the owner of the tower has taught the beauty only bad things, not good things. Everything else is just ahead, so we just have to wait. I haven't been able to find any useful information yet. So far, I've only heard rumors about what happened in the past and what I want to know more about. Where the squad with the knights last stopped, there lives a witch who could somehow influence the events. It seems more like a good chance. This way you can learn more about submission in the Book of Souls and do everything right. These were just rumors. but no one forbids at least trying something new, thereby finding more answers to questions. Carter jumps up. He can't believe that the beauty decided to go alone. They haven't recovered from the last time. This is too dangerous for one person, so the man asks to take him with him, to which he receives a sharp refusal and arguments. To become a great magician, you need to see the whole world, so this is exactly what the Virgo is going to do. This is a great opportunity that you definitely shouldn't miss while you can take advantage of it. The girl is going to do everything in the best possible way. She promises that she will definitely be able to return home on time and completely safe. There is no point in worrying. The heroine decided to temporarily leave the house, but there were a couple of unfinished matters left. The first step is still better to graduate from the academy. Since the lady is still registered there, the parents will definitely not let Chelsea go on her own until she completes her education, which is so important. If you wait until after release, it may be too late. Those same rumors are already ancient, so they can go all the way. Thoughts begin to move around in your head because you need to choose one thing. The only option is to graduate early. There is also a girl in the hall who intervenes in the conversation to help, because she understands that this is someone with whom the relationship can be made easier. The girl knows how to get an education without taking classes. To do this, you need to become a student of the Magic Tower, and all requirements will be immediately met. Until this moment, there were still some doubts, but now the beauty was confident that she would be able to become the best student of the Magic Tower. We managed to sort out the first thing quite quickly, but there was still one more thing left, because my parents forbade me to go so far alone. The father did not want to listen to any forgiveness, because at the age of 18, crossing the border is quite dangerous, despite all the awareness of the action. No matter how outdated the Magic Tower is considered, it still takes care of its magicians, who, no matter how, also fall under its influence. The child is endowed with enormous power, so there is no point in keeping Chelsea close to him in the capital. Still agreeing with the beliefs that grandfather told, Mom promises that they will not interfere with the chosen path. The second problem was solved even faster than the first. At the end of the conversation, the family hugged, realizing that they just needed to worry about what would happen in the future. To say goodbye, the whole family gathered and saw off the girl, promising that very soon she would return to see her. 3 days later, Chelsea finally saw the border of the empire. These days seemed to drag on forever, but it was definitely worth it for what it was supposed to be. The little girl went there for the first time at the age of 10, when she tried to find Barrack's plant in order to save Carmen. That day, she felt like a real wanderer who had finally decided to take a brave step, which, of course, was counted. The coachman, who is taking the girl to the border, once again draws attention to the puppy, talking about how cute he is and not knowing his true origin. It seems the baby said hello. He always remained friendly towards other people, even if he didn't really know them. Last night, they held a special training session, because otherwise, Blackie wouldn't have even thought of pretending to be a puppy. That day, the wolf understood everything, so he tried to make it so that he could bark as if he were a dog. This was the best option. The sun had almost set behind the clouds, so the lady decided that they would spend the night at a hotel. She turned her attention to the map on which everything was marked. Not understanding anything, Chelsea asks how many more days they will have to get to the border. She does not know when she will be able to fulfill her plans. After crossing the border, there will be only a week left until they find themselves in the area where they are originally going to find out the details. Nothing else is given, because the cart travels along a relatively safe path where monsters cannot be caught that would kill both of them. If you drive through the forest, you can get there in just a day. For this, you need a magician of at least a middle class. Not everyone is willing to take the risk, but the lady agrees to go through the forest. The woman promises to cast an invisibility spell on the van, and then they will be able to get there without any problems. Taking a break from her conversation with the coachman, Chelsea turns to the counter where some kind of scene is unfolding. The woman demands silver coins. A maiden about the Duchess's age would simply lend her coins for some business, after which she would return twice as much. The man does not agree to any conditions. He knows that the lady can run away abroad, making sure that no one will ever see her again. Interest almost immediately shows on the girl's face. She doesn't know why her friend is going to cross the border. When the little girl was little and was looking for Barack, she was also left without money. So now she understands what it's like to be in such a situation. The coachman agreed to help in the past because he lived very close in the village, so this can be considered kindness. Virgo remembers that at that time the young man had a daughter about the same age as her, so the puzzles in her head begin to come together. Grabbing the girl's hand, Chelsea asks the coachman if it would be okay to take one more person. He nods in agreement. The lady was not going to say anything with bad intentions. There is free space in the van, and they are also planning to cross the border. Smiling, the brunette offers to go with them. No one will force anyone, but the choice must be correct. The girl still agreed. They proceeded back to the carriage as she introduced herself as Lily. The name turned out to be really cute. They are glad to meet, because now each of them will be able to get where they originally intended without any obstacles. There is nothing to be grateful for. The lady tries to explain this to her fellow traveler, thereby completely becoming a saint in her eyes. They are going to the same place, especially since it will be more fun if they are together. You don't even have to worry about a roof over your head. The girl climbs in to hug. Since the lady came to this area, she has come across only scammers, but after such a meeting, you begin to believe in goodness. Dad was right when he told his daughter that a good man will always find a good man who is just like the rest. Nodding, the Duchess agrees. It cannot be said that there will always be more bad people, because there will always be someone good with a pure heart. Turning her attention to the puppy, the lady asks where he came from. This animal has practically become a member of the family, so you have to carry it with you everywhere you can. While the road continued, Lily had already fallen asleep. The heroine accidentally noticed that they had already managed to get into the green forest. The spell works as it should, so worries go away. The beauty believes that she did her best. Turning to the coachman, the lady clarifies what is happening around. The monsters don't pay attention, so the trip goes smoothly. A puppy that has woken up calls its owner's name. It was as if he sensed something bad, which he was now trying to warn about. The woman turns to the side, realizing that she also feels some kind of strong aura that is spreading around. A three-headed eagle monster sits right in front of the carriage. This, as everyone knows, is the king of the green forest, which is not inferior in size to anyone. Invisibility magic doesn't work on these kinds of animals, so it's pointless. The heroine climbs out onto the roof, promising that she will sort it out. Giving the order to continue the journey and Blackie to take care of Lily, Chelsea finds herself on the roof of the cart, lifting her chain, while spreading a circle of magic. The eagle is getting closer. The brunette needs to concentrate more so that in the end they all come out safe and sound, but this is almost impossible. About to crush the cart, the eagle tries to take a step forward, but at the same moment he is entangled in a chain that bites tightly into his skin. The woman steps back to pull the animal. She understands that if she doesn't do something now, then in the end, everything will only end worse than it seems. The coachman, sitting forward and watching the whole spectacle, sighs. It's time for him to change jobs long ago to be safe. Noticing the despondency, Chelsea orders once again to continue the journey, while also masterfully controlling the bird, which is difficult to get rid of. The king of the forest still does not want to give up, continuing to vehemently resist his fate, which has already overtaken him. There is no point in arguing anymore, but the eyes still glow scarlet, which means the battle is still not over. Lily is still sleeping when the monster finally moves back and retreats. There's little time left until the carriage reaches the duchy. Noticing the baby's gaze, the girl turns to him, asking if he was afraid for her. The answer is a quiet sound. Finally, the desired duchy appeared in the distance. This is Nastia, where the Duchess and her new friend were initially headed. The companion, hearing the announcement, pokes her head outside. She slept for too long that she didn't even notice they arrived at their destination. Noticing Chelsea sitting on the roof, Lily is horrified. She's there just admiring the views, and is happy that she managed to cut it short enough that the journey didn't even take one day. The lady did not know that in the end, everything would become so simple. It seemed that even if not a week, but at least a few days, it would definitely take. The principality was formed 30 years ago during the split of the empire, which was rich and prosperous, famous for its delicacies. She was completely destroyed by a monster under the control of a witch, who also changed the weather conditions to unbearable heat. The heat makes everything blurry before your eyes, but it's definitely worth it. The clothes in the principality are beautiful and attractive even for a lordling. The reason for this is the warm climate, because if you walk around in closed, shapeless clothes, you can easily get steamed and regret your choice. Still, about to ask a few more questions, the heroine asks about how exactly she managed to cross the forest. In any case, it's not that important anymore. If you tell exactly how they got through the forest, it will be revealed that Chelsea is a magician, which was very undesirable because of the possible reaction. Leaving the premises, the lady promises that she will return soon. She wants to go for a little walk, and of course takes the dog with her, who waves his paw. Before the journey, the heroine read adventure books, and they actually came in handy to get more information. It became clear that the easiest way was to go straight to the tavern. There you could find out as many interesting details as possible. Walking inside, the lady ignores all the sidelong glances thrown at her, while asking the servant to pour the most expensive drink. The young man asks where such a young girl came from. She is from the Hevrim Empire, which makes it clear how long it took her to travel here. It's strange that the tourist who lives there was brought so far. For relaxation, you could choose something not so remote, or at least it seems so. Nastya has something that is not present in the empire where the beauty comes from. She came to look for something needed for herself and for others who it would help. The lady heard that there was a witch and her pet monster in the principality. This belief was still very old, but if possible, I would like to know more. The man overhearing the conversation begins to laugh. He makes the girl realize that so far she has failed in her search for something as valuable as what they were talking about. The heroine will be disappointed because they get the little green man. He is a humanoid monster who probably looks like everyone else. Lily, who arrived almost on time, enters the hall, saying that the one the bartender is holding is not a monster, but a viper. They are easy to distinguish. Grabbing Chelsea by the hand, the lady is going to take her out into the street, because they definitely have nothing to do in such a place. Pressing the woman against the wall on the street, the companion begins the interrogation. She wants to know why she needs a witch, and why suddenly, after passing through the dark forest, the girl changed so much. Not daring to tell the truth, the beauty smiles, saying that she is not hiding anything. She doesn't know exactly how to behave even in such a situation. Humming, Lily points to the beauty's face. She has every answer you want written there, regardless of the level of secrecy. The girl asks to tell her the truth, because she is a free mercenary from the village, where they actually saw the talking monster in question. The girl can't believe what she hears. There is a real animal that you can even catch if you listen to the girl standing opposite. After the story, Lily began to ask even more questions. It turned out that the companion was a magician, so I want to find out even more, preferably in detail. The travel companion's hometown, Britain Village, was famous for its sapphire mines and was one of the richest areas in the country. Because of the witch, a war began, and the kingdom of Yekid was destroyed, as a consequence of everything that happened there throughout all the battles. The girls' village bordered the kingdom of Yehil, and when monsters captured that city, refugees poured across the border to other inhabitants. At first, everyone was very scared, but over time they somehow came to terms with it. The controversy began due to illegal activities that were noticed. People from the village where Lily comes from decided to shelter the refugees, since there were too many empty houses. Help is always a good thing. As soon as the knights entered the war, it successfully ended. But there was only one witch left in the world who managed to survive. This witch was real, just like her monster. They were going to destroy the peace in the country again, but nothing happened. The woman is known to kidnap villagers and continue her experiments in an old castle that is not too far from here. The current prince is trying to defeat this couple by hiring knights, but the services of mercenaries are expensive. Lord raises taxes every time to do this. People are being attacked by monsters, so the lady decided to summon the magicians and eventually overthrow that lord. She went to Kevram to get magic stones. The girl couldn't even get half of what she planned. That's why she was so sad. She asks Chelsea, who is a magician, for help. The heroine has enough experience to overcome the green forest, so this will not be a problem. She must remain merciful towards others. Now Lily has no money left, but she promises to pay as soon as she returns home. She knows she can do this just to get the win. There really is no choice but to try to persuade Chelsea, who is the last hope for everyone who lives there. Trying to calm the beauty down, the lady assures that everything will be fine, because this is the very witch that the heroine herself needs. There are people who saw that woman in person, so there is no need to be afraid. Everything will work out exactly as both friends expected. Lordling agreed to help, but also remembered that Lily mentioned one lord who agreed to help with all matters. Smiling, the brunette remembered who exactly she was talking about. Everything is said about the Deliverer, who also agreed to be a volunteer. Deliverer is a rather interesting name for a brother who is known to exist somewhere in the city. The young man will immediately leave as soon as he saves the woman who was locked in the castle. He has his own mission, which will not be changed in any way. According to rumors, a beautiful woman is imprisoned in the witch's castle. Lily heard that the magician was originally given the task of rescuing her as quickly as possible. The love story was like a fairy tale, but they were not allowed to express an opinion, because the carriage arrived at the house of a new friend, where they had originally gone. The village in which the girl lives is surrounded by high walls, which in some sense should perform protective functions. As soon as the couple entered the city, Lily began to be surrounded by hooded people who were happy that she had arrived back so quickly. The first thoughts of the newcomer go to the mantle, which is black. In this weather, it must be an unbearable torment that could have been avoided. Some of the people ask if a friend brought magic stones. They sound desperate because they don't want anything to accidentally go wrong as planned. Handing over a bag of stones, the beauty asks for forgiveness that it turned out so little. She wanted to buy more, but it didn't work out. The one to whom the stones were given begins to shout that it is unfair. Lily definitely put their money somewhere before returning it back. Magic stones are very expensive, and this is what the beauty is trying to explain. The allocated amount was not even enough for half the expected amount. There really are few stones, but in return the maiden brought a magician with her own stones to help. With these words, she points her hands at Chelsea standing next to her. Nodding her head, the lady agrees that she is indeed a magician, but she does not have a single magic stone. She never carries them with her. The maiden passed through a magical forest, which raises questions. She did it without any help, but now she can't explain it. The nasty guy with dark hair starts screaming again about how a child like that can't use magic without a stone, which is just ridiculous. The young man talks a lot. After Lordling agreed to help, he should be grateful for exactly how he was treated. Lily pours out lies. She took the money, bought some stones, and brought a man who can't even demonstrate his magic. Realizing that all that remains is to prove the true words, the lady launches her chain forward, which hits somewhere near her head. Just the same, a person like Lordling has the strength to do such a thing. It is best to listen to advice and be more polite. The girl comes forward and apologizes for Alan. He is too young and hot-tempered, therefore. In fact, he does not understand exactly how to behave with people around him. As an apology, she is offered to take care of peace and rest. After a long journey, I want to sleep. Still deciding not to pay attention to the man who made a bad impression, the lady follows the echidna, who turns to the side. They head to a small village of Echidians in the forest on the outskirts of the capital. This is where the entire group currently lives. The heroine did not think that there was such a place in the forest, just as she did not know that Moderata had such a large family. Besides, everyone who sits at the same table as Chelsea is a jerk. There's no time to look at faces, but you can say roughly. A woman with dark hair puts down a bowl of soup. The beauty must be hungry, so she must eat, even if she is stubborn about it. The girl sees how friendly everyone around her is. In fact, this is not the case, because the others begin vying with each other to try to take the food. Asking for forgiveness, the heroine explains that the children are ready to fight for every piece, because in the end, they don't have much money to spend. The lady didn't see any other adults, so only now she began to wonder whether these were really all her children, or whether these were impossible. Most of them lost their parents during the war, because before that there were several more adults who died. Everyone was caught and dragged away in an unknown direction. The lady has no children, so she kindly raises them. One of those sitting assures that everything will be fine. The deliverer will defeat the monster and the witch, and then everyone can finally enjoy. The beauty blinks her eyes in surprise. The deliverer is very popular among the locals, which cannot be denied. After all, everyone loves innocent love stories that are so beautiful in the moment of reading. The man came to fight the monsters and save the beautiful lady. It reminds me of a prince from a fairy tale. Lily notices Chelsea's reaction, so she asks her about romance, which she doesn't like. These are all the consequences after Carmen. The girl was mistaken, or perhaps she simply doesn't know the whole story behind the reaction she got. Smiling, Chelsea nods her head. She's right, because there really was a story there that had to be replaced. As the main character learned, the magician who opposes the witch is named Denver. The name is quite specific. A woman would like to meet a man to find out everything about the witch and her magical beast, but she cannot afford such a thing. For this purpose, the lady went to his house with Moderato and the others so that they could at least talk. Looking at the estate they came to, the lady chuckles skeptically. He lives right here, which is a little strange. The place is too run down. It doesn't look like there's been a human foot in a long time. The magician of the house, which only shows that someone still lives in this house. The man opens the door, and the image created by everyone else immediately dissipates. The lady jumps in surprise. I don't want to insult the magician, but she imagined him completely differently. The fairy tale handsome man was supposed to be wonderful. Rejoicing at Moderato's arrival, the brunette asks if they have decided to study magic with him. One cannot help but rejoice at this. Nothing is as it seems at first glance. The guest was looking for a meeting with the great Denevre, and that is why she was brought to her destination. One of them is Lily, who went for magic stones, and the other is a magician who was met in the cave room empire. You need to hurry to find out about the witch. Walking inside, the lady apologizes for the trouble she has brought to all of them. The magician's lifestyle says a lot about him, so the heroine begins to doubt. It seems that no one will help her. The estate is a terrible mess. It is obvious that the young man does a lot of investigating and then is not even in a hurry to try to get away. Descending to the wolf, Chelsea asks him to quietly look for magic circles or cards that would be useful. The brunette once again asks for forgiveness. He hasn't met guests for a long time, so he asks not to refuse to make tea. The guests are left alone. Lily finds a place to sit while the other lady heads to the restroom. Approaching one of the doors, the baby notices Chernish, who makes a light bark. It seems he has found what he was sent for in the first place. Entering the room, the Virgin is going to examine everything down to the small details that are to be inspected. This room is Denver's office. It is even more messy than other rooms, but there are much more things. Magic that can break barriers is on the table. This must be the key to finally getting it right. In total, we managed to find 5 magic formulas. For some reason, everything in the new books was completely different than in the rest of the library. I can't believe that the witch is as dangerous as the bloodthirsty wolf that the heroine tamed in the forest not so long ago. Speaking out loud, the lady does not notice how a brunette appeared in the room and asked if anyone was interested in magic circles. The girl falls from fear, but then gets up, trying to come up with a reason why she came to look at magic. She appreciates his work. Grabbing the piece of paper that Chelsea had already examined, the young man says that this is magic to break the magical barrier in the castle. The spell consumes too much mana and is not guaranteed to work. You can't use something like that against a witch. The girl is surprised that the young man is not angry that his circles were examined. He asks if Chelsea knows how to fix this. The structure that is drawn on the sheet is a little ineffective. If you fix the circle, you can save a lot of mana. The solution was to pretend that nothing was known. The beauty simply continued to drink tea. One of the arrivals asks what the lady was doing in the magician's office. He gave her a tour so she could look around. A smile appears on your face instantly. A tour of the magician's room is something wonderful and should be very interesting. The man hugs the girl, asking if she would like to become his student again. He does this quite often. It seems that you can get little from this person, but still the meeting was quite nice and warm. The last question is whether Denevre knows anything about the magical talent he is developing or about the witch. He sits down to tell the story. One day, he wanted to become her student in order to develop her talent and began to search throughout the city. Someone said which castle the woman lived in, so I had to go there. Hearing demonic sounds, the young man ran away. Chelsea, not understanding the whole story, elaborates on the origin. I can't believe that the hero was in love with this kind of person. Everyone in town is talking about a man wanting to save a woman in a castle. It seems to everyone that this is true. The young man smiles slightly, saying that they are strangers as a couple. This is all just a bad rumor with absolutely no meaning. It is impossible to fall in love with each other without seeing, but you will have to believe in love at first sight, which will still happen. Grabbing her hand to shake off her obsession a little, the beauty examines Denevre, who is laughing. Still, a fairy tale is not reality, just as a man is not the hero of a novel. He is aged. It's strange that all the laurels are attributed to such a person. He is a deliverer, but he cannot defeat the witch even if he tries. The young man can most easily be described as a naive simpleton. He looks cute and acts the same, but nothing more than that. This man is not able to save the beauty from the trap, so we can only rely on our own strength, which we need to find within ourselves. You need to search the castle where Denevre was, and then help the one who is still in that place. If the legends do not lie, then there's a girl imprisoned there who is already tired of being held captive. We can't keep her waiting any longer. Lily, who is aware of the whole matter, tells Chelsea that it would be dangerous for her to go to such a castle, given that it is not so easy to get there. There are guards in that estate who periodically make rounds that can be bypassed. That's all the clues we have so far. There is also a barrier that the witch put up. Not everyone is brave enough to stick their nose into the estate. The young lady does not understand why the place is so well protected, but her thoughts are interrupted by a wolf calling her owner. The kid points to a huge barrier stone that is very close. The beauty did not notice him at all. The guard almost noticed the wanderer, who managed to climb a tree. The chief scolded the knight, asking him not to count crows, but to work. The lord ordered that no one set foot on this land, so you need to keep a closer eye on those who walk around. An order from the son-in-law of the head of Nastia is the same as an order from the emperor himself. Knights must do their job well. Not understanding what exactly that very statement meant, the beauty almost immediately returns home to Lily. The girl climbed to the second floor, without saying exactly how she did it, because there was something more important. We need to find out if the new lord has any family ties with the main Nastya. Everything that was heard cannot be an empty phrase. Some local residents actually said that this was possible. That's all we've learned lately. Duke Nastya never had any son-in-law, so this raises more questions and doubts. The sapphire mine, as well as raising taxes to catch the witch, are doing their job. There were also barrier stones. All this leads to the fact that the new lord lies too much to his own people, while caring only about himself. One of those who arrived with them knocks on the door to ask why the room suddenly became so noisy. The wolf, who didn't like how the lady was called Madam, begins to growl, so the girl quickly apologizes. This no longer makes sense, so Chelsea quickly changes the subject, asking if her friend runs fast. Taking out one of the envelopes, the beauty asks to hand it over to Lord Nastya as quickly as possible so that she can sort it out. The young man freezes in horror. He is offered to go outside the village, which confuses him even more. Noticing how the person himself resists what is happening inside, the lady chuckles. She understands that she cannot influence him in any way. The hero knows how to criticize others, but he himself prefers to do nothing. The villagers who took him in need help, so the letter is really important. If a guy wants to repay a debt that has been languishing for too long, he is obliged to help the villagers. Green eyes glow with bewilderment, mixed with awareness of the whole situation in which he managed to get himself. If this person does not have the desire or cannot, you can always ask someone else. This won't be a problem. The hero nevertheless agreed. He understands that this is the last chance to do everything the way he needs it. The wolf was the first to go to the castle. He distracts the standing guard by barking to attract attention. After the lady uses magic, she immediately runs forward. This was one of the easiest parts of the mission. It seems that we were not able to figure out everything that was present, because the man, caught on a branch, asks for help. The lady did not immediately understand who had followed her, but after a while she discovered Denevre, who was stuck. At this rate, the young man will cause a stir and undermine the operation. It is obvious that he has come to finally remove the barrier. Deciding not to interfere, the lady runs away. The magic formula that the man came up with is not so bad, but there are mistakes. Need more mana. If you add to the formula and first create a small gap in the barrier, you can easily remove it. This is exactly what Lordling decided to do once she slightly changed the circle of the formula that was provided to her. Entering the castle, the heroine notices that there is no one there. Emptiness envelops, or it seems to her because of fear. Hearing some rustling, the girl turns around sharply. She hears someone clearly calling for help. All sounds come from behind the door, which is located at the end of a long corridor with a dark atmosphere that freezes around. Little Blackie, who appeared as if out of nowhere, asks why the gentlemen are shaking. She can't explain it exactly. Grabbing the baby in her arms, the girl almost cries. She thought that the animal was lost, but now her soul felt better. Perhaps it was an echo due to the large space. The baby is fine, but Chelsea herself is just too afraid of ghosts. A second later, the cry for help echoes around again. Virgo immediately understands that she was mistaken in her conclusions. The sound gets closer as the couple approaches that very door. They realize that it sounds more like a human voice. The sound came from the completely empty room into which they so soon found themselves. The questions become more numerous as we walk around the room. It seems the kid was mistaken because there was also just an echo in the room. I can't believe he just said the wrong thing. Realizing that it's better to look around, the heroine is about to leave. But in the mirror, she notices her creepy reflection, which repeats, "Help." Almost falling from fear, the lady tries to back away, because what she sees is not to her liking at all, given her fear of ghosts. In such cases, you need to call an exorcist, and not a magician who could cope with this. I have to run away faster. Due to her fast running, the lady did not notice the stairs along which she rolled down. She lost her wolf along the way. Hearing Blackie's voice, the girl answers the call, saying that she is very glad that he is in perfect order. There are already enough worries. The animal does not have a normal face. Instead, the heroine is greeted by a human face with scarlet eyes. Denevre's face is even more frightening when you have to come face to face with him. Chelsea takes out the magic chain. Launching it forward, she notices how, instead of a monster, a huge spot of dark color is spreading around. I want to cry, because life certainly did not prepare the Duchess to go through something like this, instead of ordinary monsters. Just as he is about to leave, Lordling hears a woman's voice who says that it is not a ghost, but just a monster. The voice again seems to be joking with the lady, who is already quite scared, but there is a man sitting in the cage. This is the hostage the man was trying to save. The woman introduces herself as a magician who has come to save them all. There must be a lot of hostages there, judging by the reason. The words of the interlocutor are amazing. She is alone in the castle and has always been only alone because no one brought others. According to rumors, the first one to be kidnapped by the witch was a beautiful maiden, but after that, others were kidnapped. At the same time, the castle is too quiet because there are no kidnapped people there. In any case, you need to pull out at least one. The heroine admits that she behaved terribly, childishly, simply because she is afraid of ghosts. She didn't want to act like that. The behavior was indeed inappropriate, but the lady apologizes for it in time. She promises to get the one in the cage out. The woman asks to find a friend who is lost. Otherwise, that creature will be able to copy his appearance. He can do anything. Everything that happened before had nothing to do with ghosts, because it was a magical beast. Denevre's face meant that he was also in the castle. In addition to rescuing the hostages, the target will be the witch. Finding her with a hostage in hand will be a little problematic. Now that she knows it's not a ghost, Chelsea is no longer afraid. She will return as soon as she takes care of that beast. Leaving the girl alone in a safe place, the heroine goes out into the corridor, looking irritated. She can't be fooled twice. The girl is terribly annoyed that they call her by her name, and because of this, she wants to literally get into a fight. Finally, we manage to find this monster, who is most likely simply pretending to be one of the knights. The lady draws her weapon. Launching the chain forward, Chelsea notices at the last moment that Denevre is around the corner, and not the same slurry. The young man shouts the girl's name, while trying not to move. In his hands is a cage with an animal that its owner lost. Judging by the strange behavior and face, this is definitely a man, but making sure of this will be much more difficult than it seems. In the hands of the guy is Chernish, who was found just on the way to the castle. Someone put him in a cage to prevent him from escaping. Blackie is definitely capable of getting out of such a cage, but perhaps he chose not to do this so as not to give away his true essence. Since the young man is in the castle, it means that he managed to destroy the barrier. Nobody knows because the answer is no. Denevre was unable to remove the barrier, but he found a hole in it, so he was able to successfully crawl through. This situation makes me want to scream. You will have to fight the witch and protect the newcomer, which makes the task twice as difficult. Denevre comes out of one of the doors, shrouded in dark magic. He calls Chelsea's name again, hoping she'll come over. The man next to her begins to become hysterical, while trying to assure the beauty that the real him is standing next to her. Throwing the chain forward, the lady envelops it in a strange creature that tries to resist, even if nothing works. The monster's appearance begins to change. It seems to begin to melt, as usually happens after the sun is directly on the figure. It simply changes right before our eyes, but no attacks follow. This entity has conceived some cunning plan. The tactics become known immediately. She tries to find fears, but of course this is no longer worth it. It is also impossible to cause damage to a person, but then you need to find another way to win. The end is near. The image that the monster takes is the first princess. Her hair flutters in the wind, and her eyes sparkle with the flame of vengeance. The woman talks about her father, who sent her to certain death. She promised herself to survive at any cost. Giving up was not the best option. She will return victorious, and will also be able to inflict damage on the others, inheriting the throne. It turns out that the princess fought in the war against witches and monsters, but I can't believe that the emperor sent his daughter to die. According to the law, the princess was a contender for the throne. The heroine understands that she fights not in order to survive, but in order to kill, and there is one difference in all of this. The figure managed to get too close, which made him doubt his abilities even with magic. Blackie's fur appears as if out of nowhere. Right in front of the heroine stands a huge wolf, which has increased in size. Denevre, standing behind, is only surprised that the baby turned out to be not just a simple dog who was always only in his arms. The monster got scared, so it turned into a puddle. Absolutely nothing remained of the princess's image. The wolf didn't really have time to do anything, but this rubbish had already died down. He weakened in a matter of seconds. It turns out funny that the source of strength and the main vulnerability are the same. Squatting down, the lady is going to try to conclude a contract using the Book of Souls. She wraps the handful in a chain that glows. Seal ceremony number 1 is not working. Number 2 is used, and the final one, which is the strongest. The contract was concluded in a matter of seconds. It turns out that they didn't come to this castle for this at all. Deneuve lights up with admiration and interest. The beauty was able to subdue the thing that showed the beauty's genius. Changing the subject as quickly as usual, the young man invites the lady to become his student. This is the first time this question has been asked to her. The wolf laughs, because such a prospect is definitely not to the liking of a magician like Chelsea. She refuses, because she doesn't know what to do with it. While they were discussing who would become whose student, the ground beneath their feet began to shake as if from an earthquake. Everything begins to shake more than ever when the young man notices strange cracks on the walls around him. The girl subdued that creature because she needed it. It disappeared, which means it was transported to another dimension. When the lady chained the animal, something seemed to fall from the wall and then fell under the floor almost imperceptibly. That thing enveloped the castle and thereby created strongholds like columns of clots of energy. This is what led to the destruction of the castle. Just guesses, but most likely it's better to get out of here before it's too late. Rocks begin to fall straight from the sky. If the entire castle is permeated with the energy of that creature, then it began to collapse after everything that happened. This guess becomes correct. You need to run away as quickly as possible. But at the last moment, the heroine remembers the hostage who remained somewhere below. Grabbing her hand, Deneuve begs the woman to run away faster because of the danger that is overtaking. He promises that he will pull out whoever is in the basement. After these words, the young man quickly runs away into the distance, leaving the maiden completely alone. She needs to think about how to get out. The castle is being destroyed at breakneck speed. If everything continues in the same spirit, the escaped magician and the hostage will find themselves under the rubble. The blackling, who has never shrunk to a small size, holds the stones with his body so that they do not overwhelm the owner. Just about to turn around, the beauty hears the voice of Deneuve, who calls Chelsea for help. He failed to cope perfectly. Noticing how the two are climbing up the stairs, the girl runs forward. She's still in the castle because she didn't want them to get buried under the rubble. Running closer, the heroine sharply hugs the girl she managed to pull out. Everything will be fine once they get out. The wolf continues to stand his ground. He protects all three from the debris, which is becoming more and more because they fall directly on his body. Even a giant wolf can't hold on to a collapsing castle, so you better get out of here before things get worse. Blackie will be buried under the rubble, and given that he protects the others, they will all also fall with him. Chelsea thinks about what to do, but at the last minute she decides to put up a barrier. They are carried outside, destroying the castle in the process. If it weren't for the barrier stone that Schwein gave, everything would have ended much worse than it actually was. There is no limit to gratitude. Noticing the grandmother's face, the lady is even more surprised. She became old because of the evil witch, but objects because she was always like this in the first place. According to rumors, a beautiful girl is imprisoned in the castle, whom they have been trying to save for many years. But this time, everything has changed. I can't believe Deneuve believed the rumors either. There was a grandmother in the castle, but there were no other hostages there. The hero knew this very well, but he simply tried to save the woman so many times that everyone around him began to attribute beauty and youth to her. Everyone said that the magician is in love with the blonde, which is why he tries so hard. The stories don't make the story any clearer. The girl still doesn't understand why the young man spent years saving a man he doesn't even know. The hero does not know why this happened. He simply believed that he could help someone, so he did not lose hope. At first, the brunette traveled and studied magic. He had great ambitions and dreams of becoming famous, which did not come true. When he realized that there was no help in this small village, he decided that he would become a benefactor. Near a forgotten village, there was a castle in which evil settled. It was obvious that the head didn't care, so the young man realized that he needed to help. Deneuve could not abandon those who so badly needed his help. He didn't want to regret what he didn't do for the rest of his life. The conversation has not yet ended, but the man suddenly lowers himself a little to the ground, making sounds that characterize pain. There is no strength to say anything, so the girl tries to guess what happened. Perhaps the guy was injured. Blood appears on his hands and oozes from the wound as the man thanks Chelsea for saving him. He failed to complete his mission. The brunette's vitality is running out. He tried not to show it, but it all swallowed him up, forcing him to lie down on the ground. Initially, Lordling didn't particularly like the hero. He seemed narrow-minded, especially since he lived to please his vanity. This is exactly what the heroine thought before, so she did not pay any attention to him. In fact, the magician is devoted to a just cause. Realizing that she must at least try to say something, the young lady asks to be made her student, as proposed. The lady promises to continue the work of the man who wanted it so much. We need to protect those who need help so that they do not worry. Virgo will definitely do what is destined for her. She knows that she will do the best she can. Promises fall from the lips one after another, but they are almost inaudible. A weak voice once again, thanks for the service rendered.